We'll have to do all of our votes by roll call, so I'll call attendance. Erin.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
Carla.
Here.
Laura.
Here.
And I take it Tom's not in the room yet, so Sean is here. I expect Tom to join. He's traveling back from a college drop-off today, so I expect him to join in flight, but not here to start the meeting. Let me go over the agenda for this evening, and then we will jump in. So we'll start with public comment. I want to remind everyone, see if there's anybody in the crowd there, but we've got a few people on Zoom here for sure. If you have public comments to make, we ask that you keep that to topics that are not on tonight's agenda. We'll leave opportunities for folks to speak on items that are on the agenda when we get to them as well. From the public comment, we'll go into our consent agenda. We will cover reports, and then we'll jump into the meat of our meeting with new business. We've got a team from the Forest Montessori Micro School here this evening to provide a brief presentation, and then we'll have some discussion and potentially vote to approve the establishment of that school. We'll review and vote to approve updated school medication guidelines, review and vote to approve an updated rental policy agreement, review and approve an updated acceptable use policy. We'll have the extended day program team in for an update on that program. Some brief words from the superintendent on the beginning of the 25-26 school year. Dr. Milczewski will then interview our full-time Harvard resident, who I know we're all very excited to have here in town. We'll have an initial review of superintendent goals. We won't be taking a vote on those tonight. We'll just have a sort of an initial introduction and discussion. And then we'll review and vote to approve the superintendent review timeline. We do have an additional handbook revision from the district-wide student handbook that we approved a few meetings ago that we will review and vote to approve this evening as well. From there, we'll go into executive session, which is related to strategy and preparation for and conducting contract negotiations with the superintendent. I expect to come back from executive session and take a public vote on executing a contract with the superintendent. And that will bring us to the end of our evening. So let's go ahead and begin with public comment. For those that are online, if you have public comment to make, I'd ask that you drop a note in the chat so that I can make sure that you get unmuted. But we'll start with folks that may be in the room, and I'm sorry I can't see who's in the room. So if there is anyone there in the library who'd like to make public comment, I'd ask you to approach either the podium, or there's presumably space at the tables up front, and you can give us three minutes. Make sure you give us your name and your address. And again, I'd like you to just keep it focused on items that are not on our agenda tonight. So is there anyone in the room?
Angela Bennett.
All right, Angela, go ahead.
Thank you. I wrote down my comments to read them quickly. Dr. Milczewski, Chairman Brandt, and School PA. Angela Binda, longtime town meeting member, Richard Park Drive. At the April 25th, 2024 town meeting session, Dr. Milczewski presented Article 10, named RMH
Fieldhouse floor design and replacement in the warrant report, a project which also included new bleachers for ADA compliance. It was presented. In November 2024, Dr. Milczewski asked for an additional increase for a total of $3 million for the floor and bleachers, stating that the upgrade in design and floor cost was primarily for the safety of the students. Both presentations over the 2 nights were very detailed, with numerous speakers talking about engineering of the floor, safety features. In the presentations and discussions, which lasted around 2 hours, nothing was mentioned about athletic equipment, scoreboards, a batting cage, or broader general renovation of the field house. It came as a surprise to me to hear the facilities manager tell the FinCom last week that the accepted bid came in at $2.683 million, over $300,000 under the $3 million ask, but that the $300,000 was spent on a wish list of items that a very small number of people knew about, which was never communicated to town meeting or approved by town meeting. While some of the items might be considered in scope, even if outside the bid, many items are very clearly out of scope, including the batting cage, scoreboards, backboards, and a divider curtain, totaling nearly $100,000 of the $300,000. While an argument may be made for doing this work together and for purchasing some of these items at the same time, no argument can be made, in my opinion, for this above-bid spending without town meeting approval. At a recent Select Board meeting, a Select Board member talked about the town needing to tighten its belt, and he said that he needed to set an example by reining in spending. To this end, he didn't want to fund a request by the Trails Committee for just a couple of $1,000s to buy boards and nails to repair boardwalks, to rent equipment, to move trees off trails, for the safety of those who recreate using our trails in the network. A few $1,000s for the safety of hikers, and the town hasn't found the money. I heard from a town official earlier this week that a COA member, Council on Aging member, at a ReCal building meeting was asking about a feature she was expecting in the new ReCal building, and she learned that it had been removed from the design because there was no money for it. According to her, the $300,000 should have been savings and might have been transferred to the ReCal project or the Killam if needed in the near future. Town meeting members are used to hearing Ms. Engstrom and Ms. Wellman talk about bids coming in low, yay, and how we can save that money and reappropriate it as needed and as decided upon by town meeting. That did not happen here, and I'm disappointed, and will view future presentations by the school department and the superintendent with a sense of distrust until my trust is restored. I'm asking you for a couple of things. For the sake of transparency, I would like to know who was involved in the decision-making process to spend $300,000 above the bid cost, who was aware of the decision and how the decision was made. I would like to see the school department, athletic department, reimburse the town for the $100,000, a third of the money spent on the athletic equipment. And I would like to hear a promise that this won't happen again. I believe that these three actions, disclosure, reimbursement, and a promise to do better, will go a long way to restoring trust with the residents. The town has just started 2 major building projects with Killam and ReCal, 2 major recreation facilities projects going on with Birch Meadow Phase 2 and with pickleball courts. There are a lot of competing interests vying for limited tax dollars. Residents need to be reassured that there's transparency and some equity in how financial decisions are made, and we need to know if money is appropriated for a specific purpose, that it goes to that project only. I hope you will seriously consider what I've asked of you, and I would be happy to discuss this matter further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benda.
Thank you, Ms. Benda. And I'll just, again, reiterate, we don't typically respond to public comment in real time here. I do know Dr. Milczewski plans to address a number of building projects, including this one, during his updates here in just a few minutes. Ms. Doctor, I know you've got your hand raised and you wanted to speak as well. You should be able to unmute yourself now in the chat, and go ahead.
Hi, Nancy Doctor, Pearl Street, also a Precinct 1 town meeting member. Kind of related to the last speaker's concerns raised, my very specific questions of funds being used by the school department outside of what town meeting approved for is really a legal question. There are certainly ethical ramifications, but I would like to know from town council, what are the legal implications of that misuse of funds? So I don't know if the superintendent can answer that, or if that's something that has to be turned over to town council. But that's my question, the legal ramifications of that act. Thank you.
I think town council would be an excellent place to go for that answer. Any other comment in the room or online?
Mr. Herrick.
Okay.
Sean, we have one more. Mr. Herrick.
Steve Herrick, Precinct 8, longtime town meeting member. Apologize if this is going a little bit. I think this is a little outside of the scope of the projects per se, but I do want to address the same topic that Ms. Binda just covered. not as well prepared or as eloquent as she is. But I sat in a town floor meeting while this was being discussed. We had extensive conversations and discussions about this, as we do about many topics. Many topics come to town meeting with far, far smaller dollars, far, far smaller implications for the town. I've seen people hold votes ad nauseum to cross $10,000 out here and $20,000 out there because they didn't like something, because that wasn't within the purview. To see this kind of spending take place that clearly was not part of the warrant. I read the warrant, I printed it out, I said, it's obvious it's not part of it, that money is not being turned back. It generates a level of concern and distrust that I think is very, very, very detrimental. And it concerns me. This is what I see. What do we not see now? That's the question that has to be raised. These things are supposed to go. We have the will of town meeting. They're the ones who hold the purse strings. And this is not that I'm anti-batting cage or pro-scoreboards or anti-floor. That's got nothing to do with it. I'm talking about the process that we go through for allocating the limited funds in this town. I think there needs to be a lot more transparency. I think there needs to be accountability. I would really like to know what the process is for approving these dollars. And if we're approving things in town meeting, and then the town staff or school staff, I don't know who, feels they've got free rein to go out there and go outside what town meeting did, that raises some serious questions about the governance of this town. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Herrick. No hands, no more hands, Sean, inside.
Okay. All right, thank you all. Let's move to the consent agenda. And is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Laura. Any discussion from the committee? Okay, we'll move to a vote. We'll do a roll call again. Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes. Yes.
And Sean, yes. Carries 5-0. All right, let's go to reports, and I will start with the superintendent, Dr. Milichewski.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you tonight as we embark on another school year, the 25-26 school year. To kick things off, we'd like to hear from some of our students. So we have with us tonight three of our RMHS 11th and 12th grade students who are three of our 63 Rocket Ambassadors. If you're not familiar with the program, over the last 3 years, we've launched a program called Rocket Ambassadors, which aims to build a more positive, inclusive school climate by having student leaders help shepherd the experience for our incoming 9th grade students. I'd also like to give a quick thank you to the 3 staff members who have really been integral in getting this off the ground and running. Maura Keefe, Sophia Chavez, and Lena Williams, and also Katie Buckley for your incredible work in the community. So tonight we have a few students who'd like to come up fresh off of launching freshman orientation this week to share a little bit about their work this past week and also what's ahead for the year. So come on up and introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your work. You can sit down right at the microphones if that's okay.
If you guys, yeah, if you feel more comfortable sitting.
I can start. Hi, my name is Amelia, and I'm an incoming senior at RMHS. This is my second year as a Rocket Ambassador. Thank you. This is my second year as a Rocket Ambassador, and throughout my 3 years at RMHS, the program has definitely grown significantly. What happens is that each week we have something called FlexBlock, which is basically free time for the entire school. And as Rocket Ambassadors, we go into freshman flex blocks, and we just talk to them about their time at the high school, how they're adjusting. We had orientation this past yesterday, and we just showed them around the school. Our role is pretty much just as mentors, as students who can offer a different perspective about what it's like being in high school, having had, been in their shoes just a few years ago, and it's really, really valuable, so.
Hi, I'm Danya. I'm also an incoming senior here, and I just wanted to say I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about my experience with the freshmen and mentoring them at orientation yesterday. I just wanted to say how they were all so cooperative, and I honestly felt like I was talking to a younger version of myself and reminding them that even though it was overwhelming right now, everything will be all right. I really enjoyed being part of showing them around the school and telling them about clubs and sports that they could join, and being a helpful person that they could turn to in the halls if they ever needed anything. Overall, I think the freshmen were really excited and eager to come to RMHS and to learn about the opportunities here and explore what they want to do with the endless possibilities available. I think what really helped was sharing my personal experiences so that they could have a better idea of what to expect and how to get more involved at RMHS in the future.
Hello, I'm Saloni Patel. I'm also an incoming senior. I think I can speak for almost all our Rocket Ambassadors when I say that we really want to make sure that the incoming freshmen have like a good experience and kind of would calm all their nerves that I know I once had as a freshman coming into high school, because when we were coming into this program, there's a lot more applications. I think there's like around above 100 applications coming to this, and now there's I think around 65 ambassadors. So we all knew coming into this that it was a pretty competitive program, and we all were here for the right reason. I think everyone really proved themselves in working with the freshmen, because especially I can say for my group, they definitely started having a better bond as we did more icebreakers and we did more tours. When I first saw them on Move Up Day, they were definitely a little bit more shy and they didn't really want to ask many questions, but this past orientation, they definitely opened up with being able to bond with their fellow classmates, because they are coming from two completely different middle schools and some outside of Reading. And they all are kind of in the same boat of being a completely new environment. High school is very different from middle school. And I think the ambassador program really helped them kind of move into this new environment, and I'm really happy to say that it was a great group of kids that helped them. I feel like my fellow ambassadors are very knowledgeable, and they're very comforting people who just want the best for these freshmen, because we were all in their place.
Any questions for your committee?
I'll just chime in and say I love this program, and I love how it's grown over the years. And you three obviously get it for the nervousness and the transition for people to make, and how overwhelming the hallways can be, right? Especially for freshmen, I think, when they're first coming in. And just to be able to see a familiar face of somebody that they know is caring and is there to answer questions for them. Like, you guys you really provide a service, and calming fears is huge. So thank you for what you do. It really, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
I'll just say thank each of you for stepping up and answering the call to leadership. I know there's so many ways you can lead at RMHS, but this way is, as Carla was saying, so important to our students who we know are feeling a variety of emotions coming in. Just as a question, I think the community may be interested in hearing, you've probably shared a lot of advice over the last couple of days. What is maybe some of the best advice that either you've given or you've heard others give to people who are going through either the transition of freshman year or kind of acclimating to a new school in general?
I think that for me, it's definitely just reassuring them that you'll get to know the school in a couple of days. It's not as big as it looks. And also just telling them that your guidance counselor and the guidance office really has your back. So you have a lot of support, and you have a lot of support systems in place to help you navigate high school.
For me, it was just to get involved in the school. There's so many ways that you can get involved, whether it's with clubs or sports, and everyone really has an area at RMHS, and just explore around. Yeah, that's basically it.
I think something I kind of told the kids in my group a lot was just kind of have fun, because high school is this 4 years where you get to learn as much as you can. You kind of find what you're into and what your interests are, and you just want to pursue that, because there's a certain time where it, like, and especially like with us now, since we're in college or going to college and have to start thinking about that, it's this like big time where you just want to find what you're interested in and just have fun. And I think that's a really important part of growing up in a town that allows you to have those opportunities.
Great advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you all very much. I'll echo Carla's comments. I think they were spot on. So we can't let you go without taking our traditional Focus on Excellence photo. A little bit of a skeleton crew there in the room today. But I'd love, yeah, we'll be on TV, so maybe we can frame the TV and the photos. If the three of you could join those that are in the room in front of the table, we can get a quick photo.
So we're going to take a picture right in the front.
Thank you. Nice job. Thank you. Just want to pull up the presentation real quick. All right, so that was the first half and the more exciting part of my report, which is hearing directly from our students. I have a few other updates to share just around the beginning of school. Just give us 1 minute as we pull this up on the screen as well. Thank you again for coming tonight. Here we go. Hitting a roadblock, Andy.
Right at the beginning.
Sean, help us. What's that? Help from afar.
It was on the screen, wasn't it?
So as they're pulling up that report, just a couple of things that we can share too. Thank you to our students, but as the community knows, our staff are all back in the buildings starting on Monday for opening staff convocation starting at 8 a.m. And then all of our students are coming back on Wednesday for 2 days before then we're off for the long weekend. So in this quick report, just want to share a couple of updates that may be relevant for the community around the opening of school, around some instructional updates, a couple of construction updates, and then also a few things and thank you for the summer. So to start, you'll see on the screen now too, first thing that we'd like to, here we go. Thank you, Andy. Perfect. So again, construction projects, a few updates around staffing where we are, a few instructional operational updates, and then some summer highlights too. So around construction, it gives me first the chance, as you know, we are, in addition to the projects, which I'll discuss momentarily, I'd like to give a huge thank you to our custodial team led by Kevin Gerstner. It is an absolute incredible lift to have to get all of our buildings prepared, especially transition from ESY, summer programming, into being ready for welcoming our students. Kevin and the team do an absolute incredible job in making our building shine and having them ready for our staff and for our students. So if you see a member of our custodial staff, please thank them. It is always a busy and crazy job, and especially these upcoming past week and upcoming few days. Also, as I dive into construction, I also like to thank our facilities team. We know that we had several projects, which I'll get into this year, 3 right here on campus this summer, which I know impacted some traffic, some programming, but a huge thank you to the facilities team for managing 3 projects all at once during the summer months, and all of them on track for the start of the year. Special thanks to our facilities director, Joe Huggins. I will share this with anyone who will listen. Joe Huggins is the absolute best at what he does. I feel really confident in talking talking to a lot of neighboring districts around challenges with facilities, that we have a team that is proactive, a team that is collaborative, a team that is competent, and I feel extremely fortunate that we have someone like that serving at the head of facilities, someone who is proactive and also in terms of resolving crises, limits the impact of any facilities issues on instruction and on the day-to-day experience for our students. So much of Joe's impact can't be seen because it's things that he's putting out fires before they happen sort of across our building. So I would just like to thank him, thank his leadership for what the impact in our community. We'd be in a much different spot in our schools if we did not have his leadership. So starting 3 projects that will kind of give a quick, very brief update on around where we are on site. First, RMHS Fieldhouse project. You'll see here a picture of both the new bleachers, the new track, the new floor, which was just sanded today. The project, which started 2 days after graduation, is now set to be opened up for the community and for the school on September 2nd. So again, did an incredible job really fitting that work into a really tight summer window, and will be opened up with our first activity will hopefully, knock on wood, be a girls volleyball game this fall. We think that if you haven't gone down there and taken a look, go down and take a peek. Carla's words, it just looks incredible. It looks like a college sort of facility. Take a look. I know that this is a space that's not only used by our RMHS students during the day-to-day, but also used by our student athletes and also used by community members, both students and adults. So we know it's something that will get a ton of use. So huge thank you to the community for your support, and also thank you to Joe and everyone else who's been working on this project behind the scenes. Second up, the modulars, and I don't think these pictures really do it justice. It looks a lot better than it does in this pictures, but if you take a walk outside, you'll see that the 2 modular classrooms that were on site at the Killam School have now been shifted over to outside the parking lot, out behind Rise. This is to accommodate sort of the space needed for the Killam School building project. As the community may know, these will be now house 2 additional RISE classrooms. The 2 RISE classrooms that were previously in the Killam building have now moved over to the modular classrooms, which will then put all but 2 of our classrooms, so still 2 classrooms at Wood-End, but the rest on site here at the high school. Again, a huge thank you to all of the work of our facilities team. This was a project in a very tight timeline, given sort of the end of school needs. They are slated to still be opened up for our students by the start of preschool, and our teachers have actually been able to get some of the materials in there to ensure they are ready for day 1. All of the RISE families just received an updated parking plan and traffic plan, because we know it'll be a little bit busier down there from 7:50 a.m. to 8:10 during school days. Big thank you to Alex and Carl Sacconi, 2 neighbors who actually picked the paint colors for us. We thought they did an incredible job, did a much better job than me or anyone in our office would have picking paint colors. So I think that did a really nice job there as well. So huge thank you to Alex, Carl, and all of the neighbors on Longfellow. And last but not least, project that was completed earlier on in the summer. This was the resurfacing of the Rise playground. If you had been on the playground before, you would know 2 things I think that stuck out. 1, a large structure that said appropriate for students that are older, and that obviously didn't fit the age needs of our students. And then 2, some divots and craters within the surface of the flooring that we thought was challenging in terms of for student mobility and student safety. A huge thank you to, again, our facilities team, DPW, for turning this space right around, which is ready for our students come next week. Staffing updates, we are in a really good position with staffing. When you see this number, open positions, 11, you'll see, that seems like a lot. That's pretty consistent with where we've been, where we expect to be at this time of year. So 3 of those are positions in the RTA. 2 of them are special education teacher positions, 1 a school psych position, the other position are paraeducator and food service positions. All of those positions, we are currently interview process, so we feel confident that we will be able to, by the start of school, be in a position that we will be fully staffed. New staff, 52. Welcome to all 52 new members of the Reading Public Schools. That is 23 members who are RTA members, which is a little bit down from 40 last year. And many of our staff members this week just participated in the new teacher orientation. Huge thank you to Sarah Hardy and Jen Stiles for their work in leading what was a successful week. And then 2 district-wide roles just to flag for the community, which you'll be hearing more about. 1, the inclusion specialist role, which we have talked about several times last year with the start of Jackie Pelusi's role. This is the additional role, given the success that we had with Jackie Pelusi's role, which is really around supporting some of our more challenging needs in the general education setting. So supporting teachers, supporting families, supporting our other staff members, and how do we effectively meet the needs, a variety of needs of students effectively in a general education setting. And as we see students coming to us with more complex needs, we think that these roles have been especially impactful. And then two, you'll see the district-wide METCO coordinator role. This is as a result of us adding last year in the FY25 budget, adding in or FY26 budget, adding in a METCO coordinator at Parker Middle School, which now leads us to have one METCO SAC at each of our buildings. And that freed up who was our Parker METCO coordinator, Michael Daring, to now serve our students district-wide. We think that having Mr. Daring supporting students K through 12 is an additional resource, support for all of our students that will be really impactful academically, socially as well. So really excited to be able to have Mr. Daring support students across the district. Some new leaders across the district, just to flag. You'll see here a list. We have Jamie Flynn at the high school. We have several new team chairs across Parker RMHS and JE. We'll introduce Ramsey in a little bit, and also would like to flag that Timmy Merzicki, our new K-8 math coach, has been a longtime teacher at Birch, so we're excited to see her in the new role and the way that she impacts our students as well. And to close, just with some student pictures, these are a couple of thank yous and congratulations as we gear up for the year, mostly relating to summer programming. On the far left, you'll see the 2024 Silver Award winner for Turn Up the Beat. Yep, the pun intended there. That is an award that puts our food service as one of the more competitive programs in the region for excellent offerings, nutritious offerings, quality of food during the summer months for students. So congratulations to Catherine Franzetti, the rest of the food service team, who continue to deliver year-round for our students. You'll also see some photos here, which are from our first ever MLL summer programming. Tayana Pereira and her team, what a wonderful job, impacting 25 of our multilingual learner students for programming at the Reading Public Library. Those were academic programming, social programming, program that families and students both said was a huge success, both in language acquisition and in terms of feeling more connected to our community. And last but not least, we'd like to thank our 191 students who participated in ESY. That's 86% of the students who were recommended and referred. Also, that is 75 staff members, plus an 11 additional who substituted, and a special thank you to our 5 administrators who also rolled up their sleeves and were teaching or serving in support staff roles as well. 97% of the staff at ESY were either RPS staff or returning from previous summers. A huge thank you to Kimberly Bryson, who was formerly the team chair at Parker, will now be working in our REACH program here at the high school, for her leadership and leading the program. But from what we've heard from all involved, a huge success. And again, a huge thank you to the staff. We know there's a million things you could be doing to spend your summer, and choosing it to support and guide our students, we know means so much to our community and to our students and families. So they are not resting much, and they are back next week to be back for the start of the school year. So just again, a quick thank you to all the staff for all of your work this summer. And those are just a couple of quick updates about what's ahead and also the summer. So if there's any questions or comments from the community, feel free to open up.
Okay. All right, thanks, Dr. Milczewski. Let's go to, we'll go to liaison reports as well. Carla, maybe I'll start with you, because I know you likely have a report, and then we'll just open the floor if anybody else does tonight.
So an update on Killam, we have really used the summertime to push and drive the design process. We have been consistently meeting with the designer. We just recently had an estimate done for the overall project, where we have the designer bring on an estimator and the project manager bring on an estimator, and they duel it out, and they compare their estimates, and they actually were very close to one another, which is always a good sign. That number is under our budget by a few $1 million, so we were really happy to have that type of cushion. We have developed a value engineering list of items that, if things come up, because in construction and any type of renovations, things come up, and you need to be able to be flexible and add or remove things. So that project is going really well. We will have an abutters meeting soon. And in September, we will be just pushing out information to the Killam community so they always know what to expect, and to the community so they know what to expect for the next year. I will say that part of my walking route, my daily walking route, takes me into the high school area, and I love walking the track and seeing all the sports going on and different groups out there. I have watched, as Dr. Milichewski said, the 3 construction projects going on campus. And just to see the progress, to see the contractors, I got a tour of the field house earlier this week, and I felt like I was in a college. Like, that's how beautiful this facility is. I was able to see the thickness of the floor, that the running surface of the floor, which was huge. One of my daughters who did indoor track was there, and she said, wow, this is so much better than what we had before. I was able to bounce on the hardwood floor. It was beautiful. The hardwood floor, from what I understand, the construction crew is just fabulous. I will point out that to have 3 construction contracts going on, for these contractors are used to working in schools, and to have them working on our campus in the summertime, during prime time, is huge. The very limited disruption to our staff and students is huge. It shows to the talent of Joe Huggins, of Kevin Kabuzzi. It shows to their understanding of construction and managing of the projects. That project was, we didn't hire an OPM, an owner's project manager, for the field house. Our head of facilities was the OPM. That was a cost savings of $150,000 right there. So we have a fabulous facilities department. We probably won't know how wonderful they are until they're gone. That's my theory. I will point out, because I was thinking about this as some of our people were talking about our situation during COVID, with some communities not being able to open because of their conditions for circulated air. And the standard was MERV 13 filters to be put into schools. Well, we were already at, I think, like MERV 11. So the only thing we had to do was buy those MERV 13 filters and put them in. Some, and I won't say the districts, I know of some districts who were not allowed to go into their buildings. So when you have professional staff, when you have people who know how to take care of facilities, we are fortunate that we are not looking for, or we're not asked on town meeting for emergency funds for things that break down. So I feel like sometimes our jobs are to protect our wonderful staff. So I'm done, Sean.
Thanks, Carla. Okay, anyone else on the committee have a liaison report tonight? Laura, go for it.
I do. I finally do. I attended my first rec committee meeting last week, and it was a whirlwind, but I would say the most relevant thing to the school community is that they did give some updates on the Birch Meadow Phase 2 project, which is going according to plan, on schedule as they told it, and they said that the playground equipment for that should be arriving in and being installed in October or November of this year.
Oh, go for it.
Just a couple of quick updates. The Finance Committee met on August 13th, and among other topics, they discussed the field house that was just discussed, but they also set in plan the place for the financial forum of October 8th and the free cash guidance vote of October 22nd. So I think most of us should expect to be, or be asked to be, in the October 8th meeting at a minimum as we go forward with that. Additionally, I've been approached by a member of CPAC, not one of the board members, but a member of CPAC, and that member has also approached the CPAC board. And Sean, you may have had the conversation as well by now, asking if the school committee would support the sponsorship of CPAC Awareness Month for November. So I'll make the official request that we put it on an agenda item sometime soon. And then we can discuss how we want to do that. But I also want to make sure that CPAC actually wants that too. So I need to get in touch with the board members of CPAC, which I'll do in the near future, to confirm that they want that support as well. I expect they will, but you never know.
Okay, Tom, we'll take our lead from you as soon as you have that conversation. As the liaison, just let us know and we'll get it on the agenda.
Sounds good, Sean. Thank you.
Aaron and Sarah, anything tonight?
Just a quick RCTV update. We met on Tuesday, the board met. We got a nice overview on the courses that Anna Cuevas is teaching this year, including the dual enrollment course with UMass Lowell. So there's a lot of excitement and buzz around that. We got a quick shout out for Blake Thomas, who graduated last year, who received the RCTV student grant. And then contract negotiations are continuing with the select board. That's it.
Excellent. All right. So that brings us to the end of our report. So let's jump into our new business agenda. So I know we've got the team from the Forest School looks like on Zoom here. I can't tell if there's anybody in the room. Mary, I'm going to take you off of mute, and if you could just let me know who else from the team, you'll have to unmute on your side as well. If you could just let me know who else from the team, that I can take off of mute, we'll make sure that you all can participate here.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here and to have my team. So we've got James McGovern, Anne Marie Faust, Lindsay McGovern, and it looks like Dr. Amy Frollo is stuck because of the hurricane. She was coming up from North Carolina. So just heard from her that she's not able to attend.
Okay. So it looks like I believe I got everybody invitation to unmute. So when you're ready to speak, you can go ahead and take yourselves off. So Mary, I'll give you the floor. We can pull up the materials in the packet if it's helpful, but if you want to just speak for a few minutes about the request before us, I'll just make one quick comment just for context for folks who may not understand kind of why we're here. So Mass General Laws, Chapter 76 grants school committees the sole authority to approve private and independent schools that operate within the town over which that school committee has purview. There's very little guidance. There's very little formal guidance from MGL or DESE or any other body about what exactly that should look like, and even our own policy is somewhat lacking. What I will say is that the chapter in Mass General Law that addresses this leaves it to us to determine whether we're satisfied that the instruction in all the studies required by law equals in thoroughness and efficiency and in the progress made therein that in the public schools in the same town. So that's sort of our formal legal charter, if you will, is to make that determination as it pertains to any private school that wishes to operate in the town. The Forest School came to us back in, I think it was early July, maybe the last week of June, asking for consideration for approval by the school committee. You all have seen the materials that are in the packet that they've submitted. I know we gave everyone an opportunity to ask some questions in advance as well. So we'll give Mary and the team an opportunity here to speak for a few minutes, and then have some discussion amongst ourselves and figure out how to go forward here. Just to be clear, sort of what the approval that they're looking for this evening is not required for them to sort of open their doors and start accepting students. What is required for is for students who are age 6 and over to be considered as compliant with compulsory school attendance by virtue of attending the Forest School. The school committee would have to approve their school for that to be the case. Otherwise, those students wouldn't necessarily be in compliance with state law around compulsory attendance. So let me pause there. I'll kick it to Mary and the team for any comments you want to make for the next 10 minutes or so, and then we will open it up for committee discussion and questions. Go ahead, Mary.
So much. Would it be okay if you pulled up our presentation just so people had something to look at? I think.
Yeah.
All right.
I think.
And if you don't have it, I can also share it.
Carla's pulling it up as we speak here. Just
Okay.
bear with us a second.
Cool.
It's the presentation that's in the school committee packet, right?
That's right. It's titled Mulberry Forest Montessori Curriculum and Logistics. I know there are people here tonight who aren't familiar with our project, so I thought it would be good to just have a little bit of a visual.
Andy, we're gonna watch and learn this time.
It's okay if it's tough. It's not necessary. I don't want to hold things up by waiting for the presentation.
It's just a long packet tonight, so I think we're just trying to hunt down the specific page you're looking for.
Is this,
We're trying to share the screen, that's our problem. We got the presentation.
Oh, beautiful.
is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, this is a introductory image, I think, that speaks well to the project. So I'm just going to start tonight by introducing myself and introducing the members of our team who are here, and I'll mention briefly the members of our team who are unfortunately not able to be here due to unforeseen climate issues. So my name is Mary Germano Saba. I am a educator and a artist. I have a PhD in geography. I'm actually myself a product of Massachusetts Public Schools. I graduated from Medford High School and then went on to do my undergrad at Harvard, and I hold a master's and a PhD in geography from the University of California, Berkeley. I would love to just introduce you all briefly to part of our team here tonight. We have James McGovern, veteran educator, curriculum designer, and artist. We have Lindsay McGovern, also veteran educator, currently a public school teacher, and also has extensive experience with special education administration, has worked as a special ed administrator, and also evaluated at the state level programs and accreditation. We have Dr. Emery Faust, a co-founder and a biologist, a research scientist. We have Annapurna Garza Gonzalez, our wonderful primary lead teacher, and also has a degree from Williams College in environmental studies and feminist studies. And not here with us this evening is Dr. Amy Frollo, who is a Montessori educator, a veteran educator, and also a research scientist and ecologist, and holds a PhD in teacher education and learning sciences. So that's part of our team. We also have an occupational therapist who's recently joined us at the primary level, and a variety of wonderful assistant teachers and volunteers working on this project. So just to kind of give you a very quick background, if you could scroll down just a little so people can see the mission and the vision, that would be fantastic. Mulberry Forest Montessori, yes, just there, that's great. Mulberry Forest Montessori is a new micro school. It has been founded by this just fantastic group of educators and conservationists and scientists who are all coming together because we strongly believe in this project and in the benefits of a outdoor education and a Montessori education and what happens when you bring those two things together. So we are a micro school, which means that we are very small and we intend to stay small. This is in order to best serve the population that attends our program. And so micro schools are sort of increasingly becoming a phenomenon, and they allow for a sort of small and responsive schooling system to arise that can meet needs of children who may not be best served or currently served in kind of more traditional education. So we are planning to serve pre-K through grade 6. In Montessori language, means that we will have a primary classroom, which is ages 3 to 6, and 2 elementary classrooms. In Montessori, children are not actually just in grade levels, they're in grade kind of age bands. So there's elementary 1, which serves 6 to 9, and then there's elementary 2, which serves 9 to 12. And so this year, at least, we will be combining those elementary classrooms. This is our pilot year, and we have been working diligently on our curriculum, again, with our curriculum experts and basing on Montessori pedagogies for several months now. We will be integrating nature-based approaches with a fairly traditional Montessori schooling pedagogy, which relies very heavily on hands-on materials, and in order to help children make a connection between very concrete and very abstract concepts, such as one encounters in math. And at the same time, our curriculum has been developed in relation to the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. That means that if children kind of need to come in and out, join us from a more traditional school, or ultimately find that a different kind of schooling is better for them, they will still be at the roughly same grade level as they would have been had they been in a more traditional school. The benefits that however, that they can learn in an outdoor setting, which has been shown in multiple ways research has shown in multiple ways that it supports focus and regulation. And it also has the benefit of having a kind of hands-on application for all of the skills that children are learning in a kind of more straightforward and, again, abstract setting. So I'll just briefly say that we anticipate 10 to 15 students total this year. That is a very small number of students. It's partly because we made the decision to go ahead and start in a pilot year and kind of launched rather late. Traditionally, private schools are often doing their recruitment in January. We started our recruitment in July, but we're very excited about this coming year and what we know that we're going to be able to offer. And the final thing I'll say is that we are, collaborating with the Reading Conservation Commission, who are going to host us at the Bear Meadow and Matera Cabin Conservation Area. It's a very exciting collaboration where we hope to learn a lot from them. They are also experts, obviously in that local history and in that ecology. And we hope to be able to support the Conservation Commission and eventually make some of our environmental and educational programming available to the public in a either very low cost or for free setting, so that we can support the Conservation Commission's mission in really integrating educational programming into their conservation work and just into the spaces themselves. So that's it for my introductory presentation. I know that that you've all received a lot of information about our project, and we would love to take any questions that people have.
Great, thank you. So I'll open it up. Anybody who wants to get started can go ahead.
I'd love to, Tom, you and I haven't had a chance to talk yet. I think your recommendation or your thought on this would be really important for my input in terms of where this stands. I do have some other concerns, but I would like to hear what your feedback is in terms of the educational side of it and what they presented. Montessori is generally considered strong, so I'm not worried about that per se, but the rest of the materials they presented, the rest of the preparedness, anything else you've done from a due diligence perspective would be appreciated if you have a chance.
Yeah. I think great question. Do you mind if I ask this committee first, just because I ultimately don't have a vote on this too, so I can say, Sarah Hardy and I did review all the application, all the materials. We did obviously in alignment with what DESE's provided around some of the sort of the checklist of things to look for. But I think at this point, if it's okay with you, I'd just like to give the committee sort of first chance just to be able to share, and then we can share any insights or thoughts too, because I know some committee members came with some questions.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, just a couple of folks in the chat flagging that they're having trouble hearing you, so if you could maybe reposition your mics or just make sure you speak into them, that'd be great.
Which Tom?
Tom Wise, sorry.
Okay. Maybe it's because my head was turned sideways talking to Tom M, so apologies. The mic is right in front of me, so we should be good in that regard. Sorry.
All right. Anybody on the committee want to jump in?
Go ahead.
I'll start. I was very intrigued by this school from the beginning. My initial concerns were about how a 3-year-old is supposed to be outside all day in the wintertime. I've noticed that since the initial submission, there has been, it looked like online that you're taking more time to be indoors. So I kind of appreciate that. I wasn't sure how to approach this as a school committee member. I started looking at qualifications. A couple of things that stood out to me was that you are a 501c3 organization, but the Mulberry Forest Montessori School is a project of the 501c3 organization Access Culture, Inc., which resides in Medford. So I know at one point in time, you had mentioned, because I did attend the select board meeting too, because I wanted to see what was happening, wanted to follow it, that you were looking for accreditation through, or looking for 501c3 access through another entity, which I'm going to come up on my notes in a minute. So that's one question that I have, is the 501c3 organization. Is the school a 501c3 organization?
Yes. So we are fully compliant. We are a 501c3. Again, Access Culture is a nonprofit organization that I co-founded in order to begin the school under it. We are still in discussion with the Montessori network of schools, the Wildflower Foundation,
Network. Yep.
which is probably the foundation that you
Yes.
that you have had in mind. And we thought that we had to create a new organization in order to affiliate with them. And it turns out that we don't, which is great and very simplified. And so we are going to just be affiliating with the Wildflower Foundation as Mulberry Forest, as it already exists, if that clarifies. Access Culture is registered in Reading, in Medford. We fully intend, in order to sort of meet all compliances with the select board and so on, to have our organization based in Reading. I am actually going to, for clarification, head to town hall on Monday and file a doing business as in Reading, so that there's both separation and clarity around Mulberry Forest, and also that it is established as an organization that's running in Reading, and we intend to have our address be the Matera Cabin Conservation Area.
Okay. I noticed that your website had listed that you were in different locations in Arlington and in Melrose and Stoneham. And I was initially confused because I believe now, from what I understand, you were operating as a homeschool in those locations. Is that true?
That's right. So Mulberry Forest started off as a homeschool co-op that was actually in Stoneham, Melrose on the line in Brookfield Park. And we also had a lovely collaboration there with the Conservation Commission. We were running as a homeschool co-op. We weren't incorporated as any entity. And it was primarily preschool children. And we considered continuing, and the same thing as with Arlington. And we were hoping to, again, we approached the Conservation Commission there, and we were hoping to be able to develop a partnership. What ended up happening was that we weren't able to find any suitable indoor space adjacent to conservation land. And as you've mentioned, it is very cold for 3-year-olds to be outside exclusively all day, although there are programs that do it. And Massachusetts EEC has a specific regulation around nature-based programs, which I believe I included in the packet, where they are fully allowed to be entirely outdoors and not even have access to bathrooms, and that is within the regulations of the state. But as you said, and as we certainly noticed, it's very helpful to be able to go in and warm up when you need to be able to then reap the benefits of learning outside.
Sure. Thank you for that. So I looked at the people, I kind of didn't focus on the board because I wanted to see the people who are actually with the children, right? The teachers or the guides as they're called. And there's definitely a focus on Montessori, right? Your curriculum is based and your methodologies and all that. And when I started to dig into the first co-head of school, and this is from the website, she holds her certifications in Montessori elementary education through the American Montessori Society. And then I went on to that website and I said, okay, so what kind of certifications does she have? And, you know, you can potentially take a 4-hour class and receive a certification. So is that what we're talking about? So I think I would like to know what her certifications are and what ages is she certified to teach at. So there's one piece. I looked into your primary guide, and she is, per the website, she is an Association Montessori International Assistant, credential for the primary level. So I said, okay, what is that? So I went on the site, and I noticed that the equivalent to what it would be in our school system is as a paraeducator. So this person, per that, the classroom assistant resources, they support the teachers, but they are not the lead teachers. They prepare and maintain the environment, observe behaviors, models grace and courtesy, and assist in the development of independence, preserves and protects lessons. But they are definitely an assistant to the teacher. So I said, okay, that person doesn't seem to me to be credentialed under Montessori. And they are credentialed under the primary level, which I'm assuming is 6 through 12. So I don't know if you have, and then I did check your credentials out too, and you seem to be in the midst, or in the process of getting credentialed. So I guess, you know, when I look at a resume of someone, I can see their actual credentials and I can understand it, but I found it very difficult to see if you are certified to teach under Montessori, and if you are, if that's an acceptable, your certifications are acceptable to Massachusetts. So that is a, like, huge issue for me. I don't know if you can address it.
Yes, certainly. I can, and I'm going to allow James and Lindsay to jump in here in a moment. But I just want to say, so first of all, thank you so much for that and for doing your due diligence. And I'm excited that you've been on our website and pre and post the updates that we made. And so I guess I'll say, first of all, Amy Frollo has so the American Montessori Society is actually just a coordinating body that training programs affiliate with. It does not itself offer certificates. So I think I agree with you that the language on those websites is very confusing. The certification that Amy has is a teacher training certification from an institute, the Center for Montessori Training in Connecticut, which actually was absorbed by another institute. She did her training 20 years ago. She then went and did a 1-year internship in Connecticut, and then she taught 1 year as a teacher in a Montessori school at Keystone Montessori in Chelmsford. And then Amy has gone on to have 20 years of teaching experience in a variety of settings, including the college level, including extensive kind of outdoor education programs where she was the lead teacher and the kind of curriculum advisor on those. So Amy is highly qualified to teach children. She's also had experience with preschool, although she hasn't officially taught in preschool. So she's qualified to teach between kindergarten and university levels. Annapurna, who is our primary guide, is going to be one of the people actually primarily advising, although unfortunately it doesn't look like she'll be one of the main, she won't be in the classroom every day. We do have another wonderful teacher who's also is a lead preschool teacher, certified in Massachusetts, and is also an occupational therapist, who wasn't able to join with us tonight, but she's really fantastic. And I guess the third thing that I would say about the kind of Montessori training and the network that we're affiliating with, which is the Wildflower Network. The Wildflower Network is a really well-respected national and also international group of Montessori schools. And one can affiliate, and they have a fairly high standard for what they determine is a Montessori, authentic Montessori education. So one can affiliate with a Montessori education if you are trained or in training. And so all of our educators are, again, highly skilled, have experience at a variety of levels, including from elementary to the college level, basically all of us. And also are in training to become better Montessori teachers, because of course, unfortunately Montessori is a very wonderful and time-tested pedagogy. It's also very expensive, and there aren't a lot of scholarships to do training, so there are a lot of people who have a familiarity with Montessori but haven't had the privilege of being able to train, because the programs are sort of, you have to travel quite far to participate in them often, and so on and so forth. And so we feel really confident that our teachers are highly skilled in the age groups that they are working with. And also, I guess I'll mention, and I believe Lindsay might talk about this as well, but in Massachusetts, private schools are allowed to determine internally the qualifications of their teachers. So we feel really confident, particularly based on our board, who isn't just a board, they're actually, as you'll learn, very hands-on and in fact going to be in the classroom a few days a week, supporting and training and participating in teaching. I don't know, James or Lindsay, if you'd like to add anything.
So if somebody could give, I'm going to go back to the Montessori, because you guys are touting Montessori and how wonderful it is, but Montessori doesn't go up to the collegiate level, so I quite frankly don't care if somebody's taught at the college level. And anybody can call themselves an educator, right? I'm a mom. I don't have a teaching license, but maybe I can call myself an educator. I wouldn't. So are you three who are going to be teaching, have you received your qualifications to teach the grade levels that you're specifying and offering under Montessori? Do you have those qualifications?
As I've answered, Amy has taught in a Montessori classroom and is qualified. Annapurna is assistant qualified and in training. And as the Wildflower Network, which has a very high bar is well respected and has a high bar of determination, they are fully satisfied with the fact that we are in training and have a plan for external support. Lindsay, I saw you had your hand up. I don't know if you'd like to add something.
That's actually what I was going to also emphasize, is that the Wildflower Network has very high standards and has determined that our staff meet those standards or are in process of meeting those standards. I actually don't think that anyone can call themselves an educator. I think that becoming an educator takes an extensive amount of training, and the board is very cognizant of that. And we have very high standards for who we would hire or even consider to fill these roles and work with children, particularly because the board members themselves have had extensive, and I'm one of them, have had extensive training in education and administration and very high standards for staff and hiring, and as does James and as does Mary and Anne-Marie. So I think that the qualifications of the staff is not something that it needs to be a concern in any way, shape, or form, given how carefully vetted the staff has been and how much time we've put into interviewing the staff, looking into their credentials. They'll be working under also in public schools, as we all know, paraprofessionals, aides often have less education, less training, or they're in process of working towards being credentialed, and they're working under the close supervision of somebody who is highly credentialed. And I think that that also applies to our model.
Those highly credentialed people are in the classroom with them, right? Okay. I think I would have an easier time if you were just the Forest School and not the Montessori Forest School. Sean, I could go on, so I'll let anybody else step in.
Yeah, I'd like to just speak to a number of things I'm hearing. In my experience as a recently retired public school teacher, is that I have trained a significant number of student teachers over the course of my career, most of which was spent teaching in Boston, but I've also been in Lexington and I've finished in Rockport. You know, I have spoken at most of the universities in the Boston area. I feel committed, as I have my entire life, to education and quality education, not because it was ever my job, but because it was my calling. I was perfectly happy to stay retired until this opportunity presented itself. And I couldn't stay away from it because it was so compelling. And the people that we have found, the people that we are working with, are all people who share that same level of commitment. I plan on fulfilling a coaching role and a supervisory role as much as needed, as I have done in public schools for 30 years. And, you know, ultimately, this program is about being responsive to the needs of the constituency that we are serving. And I've always believed that it's important that schools respond to the needs of the community. This particular community began this program because they were seeking a place for their children to be educated that they felt comfortable with. And it comes back to the fact that those parents were looking for a particular kind of education, and they have a right, from my perspective as a lifelong educator, to get what they need and what they want for their children. So this intrigued me because of its direct connection to the people who had a need. And the size and the flexibility of the program allows for us to accommodate those needs. As a teacher, the idea of having hands-on, responsive, community-based connection is something that I feel very passionate about. I have absolutely no intention of allowing this program to in any way become anything other than a completely effective program. And I'm putting my reputation and my career on the line when I say that, because I do truly believe that that's what is going on here. Now, you know, are we fitting all of the criteria that a public school would fit? Of course not. That's not what we are. And so to expect that we would, when our emphasis is in other places, you know, puts us in an awkward spot. We are going to make this happen one way or another, so that it does serve the needs of these children and these families, and so that we are a part of those communities and connections. So yeah, it's not going to be kids playing in the woods, if that's the concern.
Right.
It's not. It's you know, it has to work with the Massachusetts state standards. It has to be something that if a student leaves the school, they can step right into another classroom anywhere else in the state and meet those qualifications.
Yes, James.
Go ahead.
Yep. I just wanted to respond briefly. I did hear at the end of my comment about putting credentialed people with children, and that's what we fully intend to do. And I just wanted to stress the transparency of the staff's experience or training status, and the transparency of our curriculum. That's all something that we've been extremely committed to ensuring is transparent and available to parents and other constituents who are interested in our school. And I think that transparency is something that's extremely important, and then allows parents to make the decisions based on whether they think the staff are credentialed enough, which we clearly do. But I wanted to just emphasize that we have been transparent right along with our training status, our licensure status, our credentialing status, our Montessori status, and our curriculum. And we've worked really hard, as James alluded, to both horizontally and vertically align the curriculum so that if kids do filter into a public school, like James was saying, they have a pathway in and they won't be behind other kids. Our location and our vision and mission may be alternative and in some ways. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm well aware of the history of alternative education not always being, up to high standards, being too loose, having too much choice, having too much flexibility, and the sort of label of alternative schooling being a label that can, with some connotations of lack of rigor or just kind of a free-for-all. And I just wanted to emphasize that that's not what this school is about, although its location is unusual.
So I want to jump in here. Carla, I just want to clarify one thing, and I think Mary maybe mentioned it, but kind of in passing. Private schools don't require the same licensure that public schools do. So, if you look at any of the local private schools, you're going to find teachers who don't have a formal teaching license from the state in the same way that all of our teachers and administrators would, right? So, I think those points are well taken, Lindsay and James, in terms of the sort of the credentialing and sort of the different backgrounds and different forms of credentialing that are in place for your staff. I'm not actually concerned from a qualifications perspective for the most part. I have one very, very significant sort of practical concern. As I understand it, as we sit here today, the Matera cabin isn't currently coded for use for this purpose in a way that would sort of accommodate, a classroom of children. I know that that's in the works with the town. I'm a little bit, and I don't want to create a chicken and the egg problem here, but I'm a little bit hesitant to say. I do think it's appropriate for us to evaluate sort of the appropriateness of the physical plant to support the educational mission that you have, and I get that the sort of primary physical plant is the forest, and so that that part makes sense. But there obviously given extreme weather, there's a reliance on the cabin as well. And as we sit here today, my understanding is that it's not properly coded for use as a school. I don't know what the latest on that is in terms of the expectations for when that approval comes. I'm a little bit concerned that if we grant approval to operate, even if we grant approval to operate contingent on receiving approval from the select board, if the certificate of occupancy or the code or whatever it is exactly that you're waiting for comes back and forces you to modify something in terms of the number of students that you have, for instance, does that put you in a position where the program that you're proposing to us, has to be modified and doesn't quite come to fruition? And I'll give you one example of that. In the responses, there was mention of you're not required to get EEC approval because the majority of the students are of elementary school age and not not early education age. If the approval from the town comes back and says, but you can't host as many students, will you have to make modifications to your program that may put you in a different position with respect to requiring EEC approval? And what does that say? What does that mean for us in terms of the approval that we would grant here? So I'm a little concerned about, granting approval when we don't yet have finality on whether or not the space itself is going to work for the program that you're proposing to us.
Thank you for that. And I can say a couple of things. The first thing I'll say is, yes, we would really, I think it would make sense given the fact that the process has sort of slowed down with the town building inspector. However, I've received a separate opinion from a building professional, a separate read of the plumbing code that isn't necessarily the same. And again, I know that there is a process that the town is going to go through to sort of turn to the state level and kind of see what their thinking is. So I guess we would really, sorry, let me back up. I think that we were hoping that it would be possible to have a sort of contingent, an approval from the school committee contingent on the approvals coming through at the town level in terms of the building. The second thing that I will say is that the category of school that we are in is kind of it doesn't exist on paper, which is why we've been referring actually to the EEC nature-based regulations, because while there is a regulation for what nature-based schools need and don't need and can look like at the preschool level, and that's because a few nature-based programs together lobbied the state for that regulation. So that's why that regulation exists. There's basically there's only one other school that we know of that's like us, which is Birch's Nature Academy or Nature School in Lincoln, that is a fully outdoor elementary school. And they also started out without a space, but they were on a private land trust. So I guess that we are sort of a different category where we really are intending to be outdoors most of the time and working with the Conservation Commission and the town and the select board. You see, we have select board member Karen Herrick here with us this evening to be able to find a solution that will allow us to open, even if we are primarily outdoors and we are exploring options like using a yurt with a separate heating solution to be able to have some heat. So our intention is to, go forward. We are very hopeful that the town will be able to find a solution. And the sort of specific question you asked about whether the building is coded as a school, that's why I sort of started with the EEC regulations, which is that we're not actually changing the occupancy of the building. We're not taking over the building as a school. And so the building will continue to be rented to the public on non-school hours. And so I'm not sure. I think that this is where this kind of gray area about what the coding of the school should look. But I can go back to just answer your initial question, which is that would we change the number of students or might that affect what we're proposing? We're going to have a very small group of students this year. And as we expand, which is probably something like 10 to 15 maximum, which is what I led with. And if we end up being able to expand, that will require a different building. And then we will come back to the school committee to evaluate whether the school committee feels that separate building is adequate for an expansion. So our plan is to stay small, essentially.
Okay, thank you. Others on the committee?
I have a question related to the size of the group, actually.
And I'll start by saying, first of all, I love this idea. I think it's a really great way to think outside the box in terms of meeting the educational needs of all students. And I really like the interdisciplinary nature of it and how much it emphasizes sort of drawing connections between students and the planet on a larger scale. And I'm impressed with everybody's credentials on the team. I did, however, have a question looking at the answers to the questions that were submitted about the enrollment information, the ages of students, the number of students in each group. I noted that for the primary classroom, it says there's one student who's signed up to attend 5 days a week and 2 students who are signed up to attend only 1 or 2 days a week. And so I was just curious, for the other days of the week, does that mean that there's just the one child in the primary classroom? Because I could see where that could potentially have negative consequences in terms of just social interaction.
That's a very good question. This is our enrollment
As of right now, the one child who's signed up 5 days a week is actually my child. And so you make a very good point. And actually, as his parents, we're considering whether the other days a week we might do something else with him if there's no other children in his age group. But there's also a possibility that we'll have one other child in that age group join us 5 days a week. So, but I mean, I'll also say, one thing that is really special about having this very small group across ages is that there is interaction among the different group ages. And, I can give an example from one of the children who will be joining us in elementary, who is now 9, was part of our original homeschool co-op. And so sort of, interacted with these really young kiddos from when, he was 7 and they were much younger. And I've actually seen him be able to mentor these really young children. And that's really cool. And a kind of an opportunity that I didn't have, as a child in kind of regular public school, to have those kinds of interactions across ages. And I think that they actually bring something really rich.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Okay. So thank you for everything. I was actually very impressed with your materials and the thoroughness of everything. What I'm struggling more with is the timeline, that it's August 21st. And I'm trying to wrap my head around like how you open in a few weeks and can give these kids the full year of a school experience. Now, I'm imagining you are not bound to the 180 school days like the public schools are, and that with a smaller classroom and smaller environment, you can probably get a tremendous amount done that can't happen in a classroom of 22 kids all in one room. So I've heard that from homeschoolers that it's shocking how much you can get done when you aren't having to deal with as much with the large group. But I guess, can you walk me through, if this did get a contingency approval tonight? Sounds like you're still waiting on some pieces with the town. What is your anticipated timeline moving forward, and what has to happen in the building for you to be able to start operating?
James, I see you leaned forward. I wondered if you wanted to start with some of this, and then I can jump in.
Just sort of, I thank you for asking that, because we struggle with that as well. It's a very reasonable question to ask, and we ask it of each other and ourselves every time we meet every day. I think the important thing is that we go back to our philosophical baseline that, children spending time in an environment with intelligent, creative adults who are committed to their education and their safety, in an environment that is rich with possibilities, are expected to learn to think critically and to do the things that they need to do to find relevance in their education. And so, that starts day one. That's whenever day one ends up being. The reality for us is that we want to begin to support our students in becoming independent learners, creative thinkers, critical thinkers, problem solvers, to develop the perseverance and the confidence to confront an independent challenge or problem that they have and find a way through. And we want to provide the skills to help them do that. So a lot of that is not necessarily contingent on the full year of planning being written down, so much as the initial beginning of establishing those skills in students, with students. So, you know, I think that we are prepared to begin tomorrow if we needed to. We don't have our location ironed out. And that is the place where we are running into difficulty. But if you said, could you start taking kids into the woods tomorrow and teaching them, that we are prepared to do. So the logistics are what they are, and they take the time that they take, and we're doing everything we can to accelerate that process. But the practical reality of being in an educational situation, that we are ready for. That there's no question in my mind that we are ready for.
So and also here, just to say, you know, we've done a great deal of backloading and of curriculum planning. Our team, which I should add is until school begins, all volunteer, at which point we will begin paying the educators, and some of us will continue as, like myself, will continue as all working pro bono in order to get this program up and running, because we believe in it. And you know, I wish that we sort of had extensive seed funding to get this project up and running, but this is, the seed funding is us. It's our really well qualified labor. And so we have a really clear map of our curriculum, as you saw. Everyone has done this before, or many of them have done this before. And we're also taking a kind of emergent learning, which I believe ended up in somewhere in our curriculum packet, an emergent learning approach, which is that we respond to the situation, we respond to what children are seeing and are interested in. And quite honestly, we respond to the situation that we're in. So right now we're in a situation that we did not in any way anticipate, which is that the building that we thought that we were going to be at will have some limitations. And essentially, you know, we had imagined that next week we would be spending and again, we were never intending to set up the building. The goal was never that we were going to be allowed to actually use classroom space inside Matera Cabin. It was always, and I'm happy to sort of share with you guys some documentation, but our sister school, the Montessori Field School in Indiana, on which one of our board members is the founding head of school of that school. So their first year, they were in a very similar situation to us. They had storage space in a shelter with bathrooms at a conservation area, and they rolled out shelves every morning onto the deck, essentially, and they put their Montessori materials on those shelves, and they taught the children. And so we're very flexible people right now. We are, you know, in the process of pivoting from what we originally imagined was going to be our situation to how are we going to be there for these kids on day one, and how are we going to teach them? And like I said, relying really heavily on both this extensive work that we've been doing in the last several months for curriculum development, and just honestly on the talent of our staff and of our supervising and professional development team, you know, including James and Lindsay, who are here tonight, who will be able to kind of support through those challenges. I hope that answers your question, because it is a very important one. Mm-hmm. And you know, we're also hopeful that there will be a resolution to this question of the space.
Can I ask one more thing, Sean?
Sure.
So Mary, you mentioned something that I actually wasn't super clear on previously, but that outside of school hours, the facility will still be, you know, the cabin will still be available for rent by residents of the town. But I'm wondering about Bear Meadows, because right now that's just accessible to anyone all the time. There's also a community garden over there, I believe. So what is the intention during school hours for those spaces? Because I'm thinking of it twofold, both like the accessibility, but also like the safety of the children in your care.
Yes. Thank you for that very important question. We have anticipated that, and we have an extensive safety plan mapped out for, keeping our eyes on this. So I'll back up and say, forest schools, of which there are now many in the country and many in Massachusetts, many of them operate on lands that share space with other people or have passerbys. There's the Boston Outdoor Preschool Network, which is in the Arboretum in Jamaica Plain. There's Right Lock Farm in Winchester. There's a farm school on the, I think it's Concord Carlisle border. And so all of those are actually, the children are in spaces where they see members of the public. And so, what we've found in terms of best practices from operating as our outdoor homeschool co-op, and also just from speaking with other programs, is to have a really clear protocol where, the educators have communication devices with them at all times if they're out in the field so that they can communicate. Children are not allowed, obviously, unsupervised with any person who was not a background check member of staff or volunteer. And we monitor the situation and kind of interactions with the public, and then, kind of have enough people to be able to, if something strange happens, which thankfully until this point, knock on wood, all of our interactions with the public have been incredibly positive. In the instance that something strange would happen, we would immediately kind of remove the children to a different location and kind of activate any kind of a response plan. We have a detailed response plan, most of which I believe was included in our packet. And I guess so then from the other point of view, we're a really small group and we have a really small footprint. And in terms of the accessibility to the public of the land, we plan to be sort of primarily in the mornings, at least, around the area of the cabin and the pavilion. And if you're familiar with the way that the conservation area looks, and kind of doing our uninterrupted work period in those spaces, and then having kind of more exploratory periods in the afternoon where we go on walks together and kind of do a different, more emergent learning and ecologically based, responsive to the land, kind of our social sciences and history and arts curriculum. So I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Sarah, I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, I guess so appreciate, there's so many exciting and wonderful things to think about this concept. And I think I just appreciate all the material that you've submitted and enjoyed kind of thinking about what could this look like for some of these kiddos. Where I'm struggling a bit more is kind of from the operational perspective. So, you'd said, you don't intend to rely on the cabin for classroom space. And I'm trying to think about February in Massachusetts and little ones, wind chill factors in the negative digits. You're going to need to utilize that cabin space. So I'm really struggling with, not having approvals from the town for a change in use or the health and safety sign off and certificate of occupancy. And I think that's where my head is kind of right now, like logistically, what does this really look like? Because, I've had little ones, they need breaks from the cold frequently. You're going to have to utilize indoor space in those harsh winter months, particularly, or if there's torrential downpours or those kinds of things that wouldn't necessitate a day off school, but would require more shelter and heat and space. And I know that cabin is likely going to need some changes for that.
So we've thankfully we did go through a DRT. Thank you again for that question, actually, just to start with. And I really appreciate everyone's enthusiasm for this as a concept, and everyone here's obvious love for being outside is really palpable. So in terms of all of the inspections, the only thing that we are waiting on from the town is actually just a certificate of occupancy. Our plan, we submitted it to fire and to health and safety and to a DRT meeting on August 4th. The transcript of that should be online on public television. And so again, the only concern right now, and I can kind of at least tell you what I have understood is that the only concern is whether they would like there to be gendered restrooms in the cabin. And that's the concern. And the cabin has been, I believe, approved for occupancy of 24 people, but I might be wrong about that exact number, but it's around that, or 24 to 36. And so that's the specific issue that we're attempting to resolve, and very hopeful on that possibility. And, you know, again, I guess I'll say that the experience of our sister school in Illinois, oh my God, in Indiana, where I usually go to bed around now, so I apologize that, that I'm a little bit not as articulate as I often am. The Montessori Field School, it's actually significantly colder out there. It gets down to 10 degrees pretty regularly, and they've actually found that adjusting what they do curriculum wise responsive to the weather is also like a really important thing to be able to offer children as actually pedagogical inspiration and as a learning experience. So for example, or as a fun experience. So for example, when it's actually like, if there's snow on the ground and it's quite cold, whereas a lot of schools have eliminated snow days, and they now have, online learning those days when there would be a snow day, they go out and they sled. And that kind of becomes part of the curriculum. And so we, we are really hoping that we will be able to have use of that space. And if not, be able to set up a different kind of emergency shelter that will have some heat source. And we're pretty confident that there is a path forward with the very enthusiastic support of the Conservation Commission. And, at this point, we really, I call town hall every day. I talk to someone. I feel like everyone has really gotten on board and behind this project as the months have gone by. And so, yes, so just a sort of two-part answer. Partly, we will be using the weather as a kind of inspiration for, not necessarily doing reading or the same kind of writing and dexterous things when it's really, really, really cold. And at the same time, we do feel hopeful that this question will get resolved.
Tom, I don't know if we've heard from you yet. Any thoughts before we?
Yeah, academically, I like a lot of what I see, right? So I appreciate a lot of the work your team has put into to doing what you've done there. I have some of the similar operational concerns, and my concern actually might be more financial. I feel like there's a hidden cost here for us that we're not maybe talking about. It may not apply right now with the 10 students you have, but if you have Reading students and we have an obligation to bus them, that we are not currently busing any elementary students except for maybe a few to Killam, we might have an additional bus need that comes out of this as a requirement for that same state law that Sean referred to at the beginning. Have you considered that? Have you thought about that? Of the 10 students you have right now, or any of them Reading students that are outside a 2-mile radius from where the Matera cabin is?
No, not at the moment, no.
Okay, so obviously that could happen tomorrow, right? With, if somebody's interested, and the potential obligation that we would have to bus, to offer. Whether the parent picks us up on that's another question, right, altogether. But by law, we'd have the obligation to do it if it was requested to bus that student from, say, South Street to Matera cabin. So that, in addition to the operational stuff that Sean and Sarah has raised, is something I'm a little leery about. This would be our first private school of busing aged kids level, right? Austin Prep, 7th grade and up, we don't have an obligation to bus 7th grade and up. You have an obligation to bus K through 6, and for those kids that are in Reading. So I think I just want something I want us to make sure we think about, because we're well past budget time. And if all of a sudden we have an obligation to bus 2, 3, 4 kids, what is the cost of that for us? It's not your cost. Fortunately for you, unfortunately for us, it is our cost, unbudgeted cost. It may not be big, but it's something for us to think about and make sure we're aware of, and that we've consciously considered as part of the approval process here, as this essentially could be a budget. I'm not going to call it a budget buster, but it's a budget challenger, potentially, right? So you may or may not have any thoughts to that, but I'd be curious if you do have an immediate thought. If you don't, then I wouldn't expect you to have an answer necessarily, just something to think about.
I'd say that we have talked about hoping by the beginning of the second year, having our own van to pick students up in a particular area. We hadn't been thinking about it specifically in terms of, how we would meet Reading's needs in that situation. You're right. It hadn't occurred to me, but we do have some students who have, transportation issues. And so we would like to be able to accommodate that, ourselves. Right now, our group is so small, and we don't have actually any specific need to do that, but it is, and frankly, we don't have the budget yet to make that purchase, but it is in our plan for that very reason that, kids need to get there, and we want to be able to facilitate them getting to the school, regardless of where they are or where they're coming from, or what their financial situations are. It's about getting the kids where they need to be. So yeah, we have thought about that. I don't know if that solves your question. Truthfully, I really don't, but that is something that we have talked about doing.
It may solve my question for the next budget cycle, but doesn't solve question for this budget cycle, right? Because you have the financial constraints you have at the current moment, right? So I guess maybe the question might be, I don't even know if this is something, maybe we have to take this up with our legal counsel, but if you are, since you are a private school, you are tuitioning somebody in, is there a potential for some small offset share if necessary, if a busing requirement is necessary, right? Something to think about. I don't know if we can even legally ask you to do that. I'm just trying to brainstorm to find a solution to what could potentially be a problem. Because if you're going to go to 24 kids and let's just say you're at 10 now and none of them are Reading. Let's just say the worst case scenario is 14 kids from the southern side of Reading decide they want to go to Matera Cabin for school next year, right? What is the cost of that? It's a pretty big potential cost. Busing is not cheap. It's one of our biggest costs when we have to send some of our kids out of district. So when we have to bus kids in our own district, it's a potential big problem. So I just want to highlight that. The other one I wanted to highlight is other town strain potentially. Your materials talk about leveraging DPW to do snow removal, which fortunately, because we're a town thing, we get to avail ourselves of as well. But a private entity availing themselves of the town for snow removal is something I'm a little like, Have you thought about that as well? And is there a limitation from the Conservation Commission that you need to use DPW, or is there something you guys can do as well to make your space usable in the case of snow that does not require DPW?
So the cabin is actually already cleaned by the DPW. It's just not at the top of the priority list. So for example, whereas the schools, whereas Reading Memorial might get cleaned at 5 a.m., the Matera Cabin would get cleaned closer to 9, perhaps. I'm just giving an example. And so our intention, in those cases is really just to delay school opening until the DPW does the work that they were already going to do. Because remember that the cabin is actually, as a public space, it's just treated as any other public building. And so it is kind of maintained in that way. And we've had a pretty extensive discussion about facilities cost, also the sort of way that the arrangement that we're doing with the Conservation Commission works is that it actually accounts for facilities and upkeep and regular cleaning. So all of that said, one of the central principles of Montessori education is care of the environment. And that's one thing that, children in Montessori classrooms are taught to set up their work, to respect the space, and to actually clean the space clean up after their work and kind of clean the space. And so that is one thing that we will definitely be doing with the children, and also honestly ourselves as a really small committed team of educators. If there's an additional, amount of snow removal that has to happen, for example, I don't know, on the back deck of the cabin, we certainly intend to do that ourselves. I shuffle out my elderly parents' driveway, several times a year. And so it's sort of not too much of an addition for us to think about pushing some snow off a deck so that the kids can learn there and have fun.
There's no need to do snow removal across trails or anything else like that outside the cabin itself that you're thinking about or requesting planning?
No, there was no request for planning for that. I do believe that the Trails Committee,
It does some amount of snow removal on the trails, but we haven't actually discussed that particular point extensively. But no, there was no kind of additional request of DPW to do anything more than they're already doing.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sean, thank you. Mr. McGovern, I have a quick question for you. The website says that you worked for the Mission Hill School in Boston.
Yes.
What years were you a teacher? You were a teacher there? It says you were a founder of that school.
Yes.
And
I started in the school's first year. I was there for 18 years. I left before the school transitioned into the final leadership team that it had. Yes.
What years were you there, please?
From 98 to, let's see, wherever, 2006, something like that.
You know where I'm going with this question, because I saw it on the website, and I Googled the Mission Hill School, and a number of articles and newspaper stories came out, and it says that the Boston School Committee and superintendent closed the school in 2022 because the school, and I quote, systematically failed to protect students from threats of sexual misconduct and abuse from other students for nearly a decade. And that.
Okay, I'm sorry, but let me first point out that is completely irrelevant to the discussion we're having here tonight. And so I find it kind of I don't know why that would be a factor. If you want to discuss my qualifications, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I left that school for the very reason that led to the issues that it had in the following years. And after being a member of the founding team and committing so much of my life to that school, it was an extremely difficult experience to see where it eventually ended up. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Mission Hill School has nothing to do with Mulberry Forest Montessori School. Personally, all I can say is I was appalled and disgusted by what happened at that school and how it ended, and how it got there. And all of those things were party to why I left before that occurred. So, you can take that for what it's worth.
I'm sure it was very upsetting. As I said, I found the information on the website. The Mission Hill School was listed, so I did a Google search and a lot of information came up. I read
a lot of relevant information.
I'm sure.
Because I don't understand how it's relevant to this discussion here tonight. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, I can. I do realize then when there is a lawsuit that you're given one side of the case. So I understand that, and I take that into account.
Carla, from what I'm seeing, that lawsuit concerns things that started a decade after Mr. McGovern left the school.
I was gone for 10 years.
The case was filed in 2017, and the discussions were of a decade previously. So basically from 2007, which if he left in 2006, I understand.
Sorry, coming
Yeah.
Yeah, this is absurd. I'm sorry, but you know what? Like, I've committed my entire life to
Thank you so much. I think we can defer to Sean. Actually.
Yeah, Carla, I have to agree with Mr. McGovern. I don't see the relevance. I think we should redirect here. And Mr. McGovern, I apologize for that.
No.
All right, any other questions?
Sean, there's no need to apologize. If we're,
I think it was inappropriate based on his Google search. You got an answer from him on what his timeline was.
and I had to ask the question. Yeah, I had to ask the question. I do have a couple of two more questions. Can I ask what the protocol would be if wild animals were encountered? We have a lot of coyotes in the area, and that was just one of my, you're outside with the kids. What happens if there is a wild animal?
Our educators are fully trained in emergency response, including in outdoor emergency response. And so the protocol would be that they would follow, if they were, again, coyotes don't often actually approach people, but they would, follow the protocol for scaring away the coyote and removing the children from the area. And if there was a different kind of an emergency, again, we would activate our sort of well thought out emergency plan.
Thank you.
And then they would learn about coyotes.
I chased one last week, so that's why I'm asking. It was going after my neighbor's dog, and I thought to myself, what happens if I had 10 kids behind me? So it just kind of stuck out in my head.
One last question that hopefully is an easy one. Are there any plans, and I don't recall seeing it in any materials you submitted, but are there any plans to pursue any kind of third-party accreditation? I'll just be blunt here. One of the things that I'm struggling with is not anything you've submitted or anything you're trying to do. I'm very supportive of a lot of elements of the mission. I feel frankly underqualified to be in a position to make what feels like a very big decision that probably should be made by professional educators, which is something that I'm not. And so it would be helpful to me to understand whether there's any intent, from NEASC or the American Montessori Society or any other number of accrediting bodies that could be relevant to pursue that, during this pilot year and beyond.
Sure. So there is an overarching, so I'll say two things. The first thing is that, again, I'll go back to the idea that we started with, which is the Wildflower Network, which we are intending to join, which is a sort of very, really well-respected, if you do a Google search, you'll find a lot about them, really well-respected network of Montessori schools, and kind of a check that says, their first principle is, are you an authentic Montessori program? The second is MACD, which is the accreditation board for Montessori. Because we have a teacher who is accredited, who did her training at AMS, and another teacher who did her training at AMI, we're kind of in it's complicated with these Montessori associations. So I don't know that we would ever join AMS, for example, or if we could join AMI, which is based in the Netherlands. All of that said, that MACD is the board that sort of accredits people's training. And so our goal is that the heads of school, again, Amy and myself, have MACD accredited trainings, and that is a sort of, that's a very well respected internationally. It's kind of the gold standard of Montessori schools.
And to be clear, you're saying your goal is that your training would be certified by MACD? That's not something that's currently...
Amy's training is already certified by MACD 20 years ago, and also AMS. And I am in a MACD accredited training right now.
Okay.
John, do you mind if I jump into it? I just want to quickly share, because I know, Tom, you asked me to sort of open it, and I thought it was important since I did not have a vote for me to not sort of influence or impact sort of my own perspective on sort of the case here. I just want to share, I appreciate a lot of the elements that have been hit on, first on the idea of, the organization, the preparation you put together, and what is an exciting and intriguing model for the community. I appreciate that our team, Dr. Hardy, I see on here, also had the time to look through everything. And I think for us, it's always exciting. We can see something on paper, and it's hard to fully assess unless obviously to see it in action. And that's something we would be eager, if things to move forward, is to have the chance to see something, because it's one, to sort of see something on paper, and then two, to see how it's executed. So I just don't know what it would look like. While on paper, there's a lot of things we're excited about, I don't know sort of what that would look like when it's operationalized. I think my concern, I think, was the one that was highlighted tonight, was just around the facility space. That, is, again, what would things look like if Terra Cabin is not an option? I know it's in the works. I know the town is trying to be supportive. It's just a concern for me that that's sort of still held up, and that that's an unknown. And to me, that's a big unknown, right? So I think and obviously that's a concern given the timing here too. So, but from our end, you asked if we sort of had any concerns with the model itself. I think it's exciting. I think it's intriguing. I think that they've done a lot of homework. My concerns would sit sort of in that operational space. And again, it's unfortunate that sort of wasn't, for whatever, out of your control, resolved a month ago. It'd be a lot easier to sort of navigate that here too. So I want to thank you too for your work and leadership in trying to, provide options for families and for students, and, kind of the creative thinking here too. And would love to, whatever way this goes, continue the collaboration with our team about sort of what you're trying to do, and also sort of the work underway in Reading Public Schools. So thank you for coming tonight. I just want to make it clear why I sort of didn't answer that up front, because I thought it was important for committee to have first chance at that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I do want to, I know we've got at least one person from the public with their hand raised, so I'll go ahead and unmute Karen Herrick, and then if there's anybody in the audience there in the room that has any questions, we can, or any comments, we can take those quickly as well. I just ask you to keep them to about 3 minutes, and then we'll move to our motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quickly, I didn't intend on speaking tonight, but we did have, I wanted to share with the school committee that, yes, Mary has been working very closely with town staff, and they've been trying to work through whatever concerns they have. They're raising great, everybody cares about safety and things like that. Today, I understand and I learned that Matera Cabin has actually been closed to everyone. There is some concern in the building inspector's department. And I wanted to share with you, we do have a new building inspector starting on Monday. So I'm very disappointed to learn that right now the cabin is off limits to everyone. So this is something that I see as a very high priority for the select board to take up as soon as Tuesday, to make sure that this very expensive and valuable and well-loved resource is resumed open for the community. So hopefully it'll be resolved soon, and that would certainly help this group get through their hurdles as well. So thank you. I just wanted to share that with you all.
Thanks, Karen. Anybody? Go ahead.
I just wanted to add really briefly in response to the previous comment that, we are really eager to work. We have been, as you've seen, been working really closely with the town, and we're delighted and eager to work with the school committee as well. And we'd love to be able to create some kind of an enrichment program based on the expertise and the kind of environmental sensibilities that our staff brings. And quite frankly, originally our goal was to try to make a public alternative school and to have it be a fully public option. But kind of given both our timeline and the current situation that we are finding ourselves in this country, it was just we just thought like, okay, we need to start off with a school now and kind of see where we can go from there. But we really believe that this kind of option should be available to all children, not just families who sort of are opting out.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thanks. Any other comments in the room, since I can't see?
Nobody has their hand up, Sean. No.
Okay. Carla, do you want to make a motion here? I think I want to amend the one that I expect you're about to make, but why don't you start with yours, and then we'll go from there.
I have moved to approve the Mulberry Forest Montessori Micro School.
Okay. This won't be a friendly amendment per se, because there's a lot to it. So let me see if there's a second for that motion first, so we can discuss it.
Second.
Seconded by Tom. All right. I'd like to make it contingent on 3 things. One is the town granting a certificate of occupancy that supports the program as presented in the submitted materials. So if the certificate of occupancy from the town is granted and in any way requires an adjustment to the amount of time the students are in the have access to the building, that adjust the sort of, classrooms, classroom sizes or number of students enrolled or anything like that. In a material way, I want to have that come back to us so that we can understand the educational implications of that. So that's number one. The second thing would be, I'd like us to include a contingency on reaching an agreement on reimbursement, on some degree of reimbursement for any state-required transportation of students. Subject to, as Tom said, we got to run that through council and, understand what the limitations are there. But I agree with Tom's concern. I would be concerned in this pilot year that, in mid-year, a substantial transportation cost would pop up that would be a budget challenge for us. So at least in this pilot year, I'd like to sort of include some agreement there as a contingency as well. And then the third one would be, I'm not sure exactly how to phrase this or what specific shape to put around it, but would be sort of satisfactory progress on MACD certification of all your lead teachers. And I know Mary said you've got your 1 for 2 there, and you're on the way. So, I'm struggling to say exactly what that would look like, but probably something like coming back to us periodically to sort of report out on the progress there in terms of MACD accreditation. I see a hand raised from Karen. I'll come back to it in a minute. Is there a second, again, just for discussion, is there a second on that amendment so that we can discuss it?
I'll second, but with a clarifying question, Sean, if you don't mind. Are you expecting, maybe I misheard you, or I want to make sure I heard you right. Are you expecting them to get the MACD certification before they start teaching students, or are you allowing for a provisional period of time as we would with a teacher in Reading Public Schools?
Yeah, the latter. I'm allowing for a provisional period of time, and sort of we'd expect them to come back to us, in a quarter or in 6 months with, kind of an update on the progress there. Probably in the near term, maybe provide a timeline for when we can expect that, so that we can evaluate that. But for the purposes of tonight, we call that sort of provisional.
Okay. So I second with that. One more clarifying question, or maybe this is another, maybe it's not for you, Sean, but for the team. The second portion he mentioned with regards to the transportation side, are you amenable to that portion of his agreement? Of his amendment? And Sean, maybe you want to outline it again, what you were thinking?
Yeah, it would be contingent on us reaching an agreement on some degree of reimbursement for state required transport. My thinking here is, the risk to us is you go and enroll 5 Reading students from different corners of our community that all require busing, and I know that's not your intent, and as your enrollment currently stands, that's not the case. But that's what the risk to us is. So, it's a little bit of a risk transference that if you go down that path, you're accepting some of the cost that comes with that.
And Sean, just to clarify too, that I'm not sure if they're following the track too of like the referring to, I don't know if you have Mass General Law in front of you, which sort of outlines the requirements of public school districts to, provide transportation for students attending private schools outside of that, threshold, the 2-mile threshold. There's some different interpretation even on our team of sort of what that looks like. I've got some, I would say, guidance recently from the state that says that we would not be legally required to provide that in sort of this circumstance. But it sounds like there's some more work on our end we would need to do with legal counsel just to know for sure one way or the other too. And I don't know, Mary, if that's sort of if you were in the loop on that or you knew sort of that's what the context behind the comment was.
And my contingency would be tying this to any state required transport. So if it's the case that there are no circumstances in which we're required to transport any students, then there's no state required transport to share costs on, I guess is what I'm getting at. But given the sort of uncertainty around that, both in terms of the interpretation of MGL and in terms of whether or not any Reading students who live more than 2 miles from the school will enroll, it creates a little bit of a safety net for us.
I don't understand how there can be confusion. It's pretty darn clear in MGL. But that's, I mean, reading it, it says each school committee shall provide transportation for any pupil attending such an approved private school within the boundaries of the school district, which this would be, provided, however, the distance between any pupil's residence and the private school said pupil attends exceeds 2 miles, which is our standard, or such other minimum distance as may be established by the school committee for transportation of public school students, which we don't have one. And we can't say it's more than 2 miles because MGL has a max of 2 miles. So we're not going to say 1 mile because that doesn't help us, right? So that's pretty clear that we would have that liability.
Yeah.
Black and white from the law. Whether people read the law that way is another story.
I think the guidance that we were given from the state too was around approved private school and sort of how a student ends up in a private school placement versus that's parent choice versus a
This is not a placement. It doesn't say placement. It says approved private school, which is what we're here for. This is part of the same section of the law that we're here for.
So I think Sean's language, either way, we could sort of dig it. Either way, Sean's language would cover it sort of both, if that's what you're getting at, Sean.
Yeah, and Tom lies. I think that the way that may, because there's a clause in there that says, same privileges as provided by law for pupils, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Students opting for school choice, for instance, are not entitled to transportation to their new district when they opt into another district through school choice, right?
This is only limited to those in Reading.
I think where Dr. Milczewski's going is this would follow, this theoretically should follow the same thought process, which is students are opting by choice into this school, into the Montessori school, not being sent there as a result of a special education placement, for instance.
This is a different thing than school choice, very different. But anyway, your amendment accounts for my concern, Sean. So as long as the school team is comfortable with that, and they'll accept if we vote yes that they'll work to agree to come to some agreement, then I think that's fine.
So what, Sean, can I? What are the ramifications with this reimbursement? If you asked me, like, what my guess would be, we wouldn't legally be able to ask them to participate in reimbursement. And can that be contingent upon a decision to vote for or against it? I don't think so. That's just my guess. So part of me feels like if we don't have an answer to this to put it into our motion, what does that do to our motion if it's not legally okay to make that request, if that makes sense?
I would piggyback on that, Carla. I think there's just way too much gray and unknown in all three elements of the motion to feel comfortable. I think if the town does, for example, so not knowing what the proportional share could be for transportation or what's legally possible, not knowing what the operational safety health plan would be if the town does not give them a certificate of occupancy and what the plan would be. So I think just needing more answers than we have right now. So it's my concern kind of the friendly-ish amendment is still a little too gray for me.
I just wanted to add quickly that our head of school, our lead teacher, Amy, is already AMS certified in Montessori, and our process of affiliation with Wildflower, again, is kind of considered all of these questions of the standards of what we're doing. And again, we're not just a Montessori school, we're a Montessori forest school. And so those two pedagogies combined, and unfortunately, there's not a board that kind of gives a check mark as to whether that particular approach is done right, because it's a kind of fairly new thing, and it's pretty exciting, right, that it's new, and there's a sort of only a handful of schools doing this. But of course, we do fully intend to, as much as we're able, join any associations that would emerge or that would be pointed our way as ones that kind of encompass the kind of education that we're offering.
Yeah, I offered that amendment to address to address the concerns about sort of the difference in licensing, requirements and Mary, I think your suggestion that was sort of the more appropriate way to think about, somebody who's licensed from a Montessori perspective, was that their training was, was MACD certified or MACD accredited. I can't remember what the framing was, but, so I hear you that there's not a Forest Montessori School Association who can give us a thumbs up. I hear you on that one. But I think this is really targeted at ensuring that your lead teachers have, a credential that sort of makes sense in this context, and we can point to that, so we can try to get comfortable here. Other committee members, go ahead, sorry.
No, just that they do, and Amy does, and Anna Portman is in the process of obtaining hers.
Okay. Any other thoughts from other committee members? Aaron, Laura? Go ahead, Carl.
I will just say that I think the concept of this school is fabulous. I honestly read through the curriculum and thought it was great, had no problems with the curriculum. My issues, I feel like you need more time, right? I feel like this is just all coming to you're just trying to get it done for this, for September. I think you need to get your certifications, get the occupancy permit squared away, give yourself a little bit of breathing room and time to really focus on what you want to do, what you want to get done, what you want your enrollment to look like. I just feel like it's too quick. You don't have a place yet. How can we give you approval or contingent approval? Or, sometimes you just need to take a step back, regroup, keep going forward, because I can see the amount of work that's been done just in these past couple months, right? Your website went from no information to, or not as much information, to a ton of information. The information you gave us was huge. I just think you need more time. That's just my thought on it.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment in terms of some of the contingencies we add to the motion? Ms. Herrick, I see your hand raised, so I'll take you off mute there, and then we'll go to a vote on the motion.
Thank you. I'm not sure, this Terra Cabin had an occupancy permit. I'm not sure they are going to issue a new occupancy permit per se, but I understand the gist of a provisional, with the town approvals, but, so I don't know if that helps you. But whereas I don't believe the Conservation Commissioner or anybody from the town is in the meeting, I'd like to just help communicate some of the feedback from you all, and also ask, so if no occupancy permit is required, how does that affect this amendment?
I don't believe that can be the case, that no occupancy permit is required for the building to be occupied. My understanding is, maybe it's certificate of occupancy with a use code that supports the program as presented and submitted materials is maybe the framing. Again, understanding that there's not a use code for a forest school, occasionally using it, per se, but it's more a thumbs up from the town that the building meets the requirements of the school as presented. Or the building can meet the requirements of the school as presented. Anyone else on the committee?
I believe Karen can't respond unless she's unmuted.
Oh, I didn't mute her. Go ahead, Karen, did you have anything else?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, that was my fault. I muted myself afterwards. I understand where y'all are going, and I completely agree with it. The town cares about, they've fleshed out most of the operational concerns, safety concerns. They've covered liability concerns, things like that. And I will say the town is not an expert in these kind of programs either, so it's been a bit of a learning curve, but there's been a lot of support, and so thank you.
And if I might just respond briefly to the previous comment of Carla's comment.
Sure.
Yeah, I thank you for that response, and I want to actually really just affirm that we are ready, that we've been working on this project actually for several years and quite intensely the last 6 months, and that as sort of adherence to this concept of emergent learning, where we learn along with the children and where the environment itself provides a learning experience, we actually really are confident that this, what we're calling a pilot year, that this year one where our enrollment is going to be perhaps lower than it will be in the future, you know, again, pending the resolution of the space question, which we also feel confident is going to go forward. We feel really strongly that this actually becomes part of the learning experience for the children too, that we are coming together again, as James and Ms. Lindsay mentioned, that this really is a question of responding to a need that exists in the community. There are children who have a need for this kind of school, and we need to offer that to them. And so even if it's a small group because people haven't heard about it yet, that's fine. And when everyone sees us in action, they'll really understand what it looks like. And then children will have been able to be part of something incredibly exciting and new and vibrant. And I mean, you know, imagine writing about that in a college essay 15 or however many years later, that was something that you were part of. And so, you know, we feel really confident in all of our educators. We feel confident in our accreditations. We feel incredibly confident in Amy Frollo's leadership, who unfortunately was not able to be here, you know, due to emergency circumstances on her transit from North Carolina. And we feel confident in our kind of curriculum advising board and in our broader network of support in the Wildflower Network, that this really is a strong, robust, and an exciting program to be able to offer children. And so, you know, we would really love to count on your support in moving forward.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else, why don't we move to a vote on the motion? So this is sorry, on the amendment. This is to amend the motion to include the contingencies we discussed. We'll do a roll call on the amendment.
Can you just repeat them one more time, Sean?
Carla? Oh, sorry, Laura, go ahead.
Can you just repeat them one more time, read through it one more time, please?
Yeah, so it's contingent on the following. One is receiving a certificate of occupancy and/or use code that supports the program as presented in the submitted materials. Two would be reaching some agreement on reimbursement for any state-required student transportation. And then three would be sort of like, again, I'm still struggling with exactly how to phrase this one, which I understand makes the emotion a little bit problematic. Something like sufficient demonstrated progress of, you know, MACD certification of lead teacher credentials.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to specify, our lead teacher, our head of school, Amy, is already AMS certified.
I thought there was, maybe I'm using the wrong terminology. I thought there was a lead teacher at each level as well.
I see, okay, I understand, that's right. Okay, so Amy, head of school, is already certified, and Annapurna has an assistant certification, and it is a process of full certification. Yeah.
That's, yeah, okay, exactly, okay. So that's the motion, or that's the amendment rather. So let's move to a vote on the amendment. I'll start with those in the room. Carla?
No.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
No.
And Sean and the yes. So now the motion sits as amended. Any further discussion before we move to a vote on the motion as amended?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Please do.
So the motion, as I understand it, is to, with the amendments, approve the Mulberry Forest Montessori Micro School. Is that a permanent approval? Is there an option for any sort of provisional approval that we could revisit in a year after the pilot year has gone through to kind of evaluate where things sit?
As I understand it, approval is at our discretion at all times.
Okay.
Not, we don't grant approval today, and it's good forever.
Right.
We could revoke approval at any time. So we can, through the, and I would expect that we would have continued conversations with the school, when and if they open in town. We have continued conversations with them. I'd love to visit the school, for instance, and the committee could certainly, choose to bring our approval back, back before the committee at any point in the future.
Okay.
So the motion doesn't have any particular, the approval doesn't have any particular time, it's not time bound in any way.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go to the vote then. Carla?
No.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Come back to me, Sean. I'm struggling on this one a lot. I like it academically. There's other problems I have, and some of them are covered by your conditions, but the other ones are not. So I'm just gonna say no.
Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Not yet.
And I'm a yes. Tom, are you voting no, or am I coming back to you?
I said no.
Okay. So that puts us at 3-3, which means the motion does not pass. Here's what I would say to the team. I think you've heard a lot of the concerns tonight. I understand this, throws a wrench into your plans to open here shortly. We have regular meetings coming up. If you feel like you've made substantial progress against the concerns that the committee's raised tonight and you want to come back before us, we probably would, without having another 2-hour conversation, could hear updates on progress and consider this again. But at this point, it doesn't pass this evening.
Can I just ask for a clarification on Tom's concerns? If you could specify what those are, I'm not sure I gathered them.
I want to take them offline with you. I don't want to talk in a public forum. Out of respect for some of your team members, so I'd like to take it in a private conversation, please.
Okay. I think I really appreciate everyone's time. I think that it would be very useful for us. I don't know if it's better to do this over email, but if we could just have a sort of a specification of the concerns, if they are primarily related to the building, or if there are other concerns that you have that you'd like an update on.
Yeah, can I ask those members who voted no and anybody else who wishes to, chooses to do so, let's submit those to Olivia over the next, week or so. And we'll, as we did before, we'll get those aggregated and back to you all, if that's okay.
Thank you so much. That would be very appreciated. Then we'll know exactly what to respond to. And appreciate everyone's time and thoughtfulness.
Absolutely. Thank you all for the preparation and all the materials you sent. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the chair.
Thank you.
Okay. Do folks want like a 5-minute breather? I know we're running long here. Do we want a 5-minute breather before we jump into, I'm seeing no's. Okay.
Do you want?
Dr. Milczewski, do you want to jump into school medication guidelines?
Sure. Mary, do you want to come on up front? So you can find information in your packet, which has a cover letter and also just the draft updated school medication guidelines. So I think Mary can just briefly share just sort of what the context for the shift is, and then move it forward for committee review and approval.
Thanks for waiting, Mary. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for having me. So this is every year we have to apply for controlled substance regulation because we give medications, store and give medications to students in schools. So generally it's just a review of the regulations, which have been the same for many years, but there was an update. It hadn't been updated since 2006, and this summer the regulations were updated. And this is mainly in response to new formulations of medications that actually will help us a lot of emergency medications. And the one that you're most familiar with probably hearing about out is Narcan is now readily available. So it allows us to have Narcan in the schools, which we previously have, but also to train our staff to use that if they would like to be trained. But there's also new formulations, and some of you may be aware if you have children with allergies of emergency medications such as epinephrine is now in a nasal spray as well, called Neffy. So we'll have that available for students. For students with seizures, we used to have a rectal preparation of Valium to be administered in an emergency, and now there's a nasal spray of Valium available. And so that makes it much easier for us to use those medications. And finally, for diabetes, there's a preparation similar to an EpiPen, where you can give glucagon, and there's also a nasal spray for those emergency situations. So those are really life-changing medications that have just been evolving over the past couple of years and now are available. So how that changes our practice is that we are able to, first of all, like I said, we have Narcan. The coalition is able to provide it to us for free at this point, and so that's available in our AEDs in case of emergency. And as I said, teachers can be trained. I think especially our coaches, some of the outside of school but school-related activities, having that available could be very important. In terms of our school practice, we apply, as I said, to the state for registration, and part of that is delegation. So here in Reading, nurses generally give all medications, daily medications to students, but the exception that we apply for delegation is field trips. So if there are, we've had quite a number of field trips, they're great opportunities for our students. If there's a daily medication that a teacher is trained to give that one-time medication by the nurse, reviewed, goes through a training, then the teacher can be responsible for giving that one dose. A nurse has to be available to consult with the teacher if there's any issues around giving that for that time frame. So that we apply just for field trips for those medications. And so the other aspect that we apply for is training, and typically that has been EpiPen training, which we do with all of our staff every year. So if a child has an allergy action plan from their physician and has an EpiPen, our staff are trained to administer that in case of an anaphylactic emergency. So the regulations have expanded to include those other rescue medications. If a teacher or a paraeducator or administrator who works with a child would like to be trained, and the nurse assesses that that's a reasonable situation, they can be trained by the nurse to give those emergency rescue medications. That would have to be written in a specific plan, signed off, have a doctor's order, the parent order, the parent's permission, and the nurse has to deem that that would be appropriate. The other situation that is addressed in the updated regulations is self-carry and self-administration. So in order for, we don't allow, and that's per regulation, students to carry any medications with the exception of EpiPens or epinephrine, inhalers for asthma, pancreatic enzymes for children with cystic fibrosis, and insulin. So a lot of children now who have diabetes have pumps, so they are basically carrying a medication with them. So it just kind of specified a little bit more about what that means in terms of self-administration. And when we look, our current medical order form, where parents sign off on for permission, has a box that's checked to give permission for the child to carry their specifically epinephrine or inhalers, asthma inhalers, so the parent can give permission. In our old form, it was written grades 5 to 12 only. So I would think now, especially if the parents agree that the child is able to carry that, the doctor has signed an order for it, and the nurse agrees and has trained the child that they're able to use their asthma inhaler, and this could be on a field trip as well. They're going on a hike. This child has showed me that they know how to use the inhaler properly. They're going to use it right before they go on the hike, and they're able to do that. So it kind of specifies a little bit more around that situation. So those are the main issues that were addressed in the regulations. And it also, when it changed the wording a little bit of, reiterate a little bit what regular school activities, so not just during our school day, but what regular school activities we're also responsible for, making sure that all of our students can attend any sporting events, any social events such as the prom. Our after-school program, Chris and I have worked with when there's been students who have needed to have medication in that program. Do we need a nurse to be available? Or could it be a situation where there's a student who has that rescue medication, they haven't needed it, the parent and the team would feel a lot better if some of the staff were trained for that specific student in giving that medication. So just expanding our thoughts to all of the school events where children may need medication. And I think those were the main issues that we touched on. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions about any of those or anything else that I didn't mention.
Folks, go ahead if you have questions, don't need to wait for me.
You covered it for me.
Okay. Just one thing I'll add, kind of offline here, it was flagged that we referenced Tylenol in a few places. We're going to replace those references with acetaminophen, just for the generic title versus the name brand, but otherwise, the version in your packet is the one we're asking folks to approve tonight.
Okay, yes, and I appreciate that. For consistency, the generic is probably acetaminophen is best, so thank you.
Do you want a motion?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Carla.
Motion to approve the updated school medication guidelines.
Second.
Is that Laura that seconded?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any further discussion?
Okay.
Okay, Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Sean, yes. 6-0. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks for your patience. If you don't know, I assume we have probably Chris Nelson in the audience.
We do, waiting patiently.
Things out of order.
Yeah.
To get folks out. Is there anybody else? Any other upcoming items that we need to get folks out for?
Chris is next.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I'll move to retake item item E5 out of order.
Second?
Seconded by Tom. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Sean, yes. All right, Chris, all yours.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you having me jump. So I just wanted to come and give the school committee and superintendent and viewers at home an update on community education for the last year and kind of what we're looking for in the future. So if you remember, I came in front of the school committee about 2 years ago, and we kind of had a wait list problem for our extended day program. And we came up with a new pilot program to help alleviate the needs of the community and open up the wait list. And so we knew 2 years ago that we had enough funds in the fund balance that we could do it for 2 years and then reset, reevaluate, see if this is something that we could continue on or if we needed to update and change course and come up with something else. So it's been 2 years, and we have finished our contract with our vendors, which helped us with the wait list. And we've noticed there were a couple of concerns that popped up with the funding of the program. So if we stayed the course, we would have had to raise tuition about $275 more a month per family. Or we would need to kind of come up with a new idea. So what we decided to do is kind of change extended day. We're looking to change the name of extended day to the Reading Community Education Base Program. It would be the before, after school, and enrichment. And it kind of would help alleviate that extended day model. It's now defining it before, after school, and enrichments. So the before and after school is pretty much is what the extended day would be. It's the before school and the after school. And the enrichments would be the contracted vendors, but they would be pulled aside. They'd be pulled out. We decided to pull them away from extended day for 2 reasons. Based on community feedback from the students, the parents, and staff, we've noticed that some students, although they love SNL every single day, they wouldn't like the other program that we had, Kids Test Kitchen or Kid Theater program that came in. And then we also had community families that wanted to take part in these programs, but we could not allow them in. It was set up just for extended day. So those are the 2 reasons of why we wanted to change. So the reason, we wanted to maintain the long-term financial stability of the program for the before and after school program. We want to respond to higher demand for childcare and expand options beyond the traditional just after school program. And we wanted to, what we've seen is parents' schedules have adapted. A lot more parents are going back to work nowadays. As we see that, they're going back into the office. We're seeing families sign up more for 5 days as opposed to 2 days or 3 days, which would have allowed us to take more. Now we're kind of shortening our window. This slide here just kind of gives you the breakdown of the 3 different programs: the before school, the after school, and then the enrichments. Again, our goal for before school and after school is to provide a safe, structured, and engaging environment for children in pre-K through 5th grade during the hours of before school and after school. We'll in operation, when school's in operation, and the base program is to support students' social, physical, and some academic development throughout our age-appropriate activities with our staff and with supportive supervision as well. The before school program, they participate in daily morning activities. We get them kind of moving in the morning, try to get that energy out so they're not bouncing around in the classroom. We go to the gym, they do arts and crafts, free play. They're provided breakfast from food services. And in lunch, we provide, and after school, we provide a snack as well. So the nutrition part is kind of taken care of by us. So the changes for the enrichment is now the enrichment will not be part of extended day exclusively. It will still be there, it will still be offered. It will be offered for the entire community. So when we run SNL at Barrows, any student at Barrows or a student at Birch that might like the sport that they're playing could come over, provided the parent provides transportation, and partake in that activity. Extended day students would be able to sign up and register for that program at a discounted rate. And so that's kind of the biggest difference to the program. And this kind of just shows you what the activities would be. They'd be 1-hour weekly sessions. Right now on the docket, we have SNL, we have Kids Test Kitchen, we have Cinema Kids, which is a filmmaking, foreign language, chess, Kid Create, which is arts and crafts types of programs. These are all set to go in the fall. And we're looking to add more as well. So, and this again, any student in extended day could register for that at a discounted rate, and anyone in the community can register. Again, these are the vendors that we've already partnered with, and we've set up our schedule. So I just want to give you kind of a breakdown on the numbers for extended day for the last 3 years. With our totals before school, in 23-24, we had a little over 200. Before school kind of dropped last year to 195, and now this year we have 249 registered for before school. Our after-school totals, you see, have kind of gone up for 2 years, in 23-24, 24-25, we went up about 100 students, and we were able to maintain that same number this year, even by moving the contracted vendors out. So we were able to keep the same numbers. The wait list is the issue that we have. The wait list exploded this year. And again, I think it's the times, a lot of the families going back to work, a lot of the parents going back to work, looking for childcare. Families moving into town actually add into it as well. So that 113 number is a number that I don't like looking at. I don't like wait lists, and we're trying our best to accommodate that. We've had a couple teachers leave. We were able to hire a couple new ones. I'm interviewing 3 people tomorrow. Hopefully they work out. That will help us reduce the number a bit. But it also is turning into another problem, which is space. Our numbers are getting so big. The space in the buildings it's dwindling down. And if you look, I think our number of 663 is bigger than any elementary school in district. I don't think there's an elementary school that has 663 students involved, so.
Where are the after-school programs right now, Josh?
Every elementary school and at the Rise High School as well. And this kind of just breaks down those numbers by each school. The Rise program, we moved Rise Killam this year over to the high school with the mods. So it just kind of gives you the breakdown for of the schools. And this gives you the final 2 schools. Here's a little breakdown of our budget that you might be interested in. So 2 years ago when we came, we had a nice fund balance, and we knew that would carry us for the 2 years. That's why we engaged in the program. After the 2 years, you can see the fund balance drop for the FY25 budget, and our projections for FY26 looks like the fund balance will be going up. Now, it's a projection, and we know things can change, but we're pretty confident that we'll hit that mark.
Chris, just check me on if I'm remembering this correctly. The enrichment programs, for the last couple of years of this pilot, they've been available to students who are enrolled in after-school extended day. They were available to those students at no additional cost, is that right?
Correct.
So, and that's presumably part of the budget turning upside down, is the cost of those enrichment programs not paying for itself with the enrollment?
Absolutely, correct.
Okay.
That was the extended day. So some other things that we do at Community Ed, we have the first Lego League, driver's education, Revolution Prep, SAT class for the high school, and adult education. Those are some of the other things that we're handling. Driver's education, we were able to get a new car last August, have it out on the road. That's actually a picture of it. And it has made my life a lot easier with scheduling. We're able to get about 16 students out on the road a day we have the 2 cars rolling now, so it's pretty nice. Our driver's ed numbers have kind of increased, and it's just been a great addition. We actually had 3 students this week get their licenses. We've sponsored road tests now as well, so it's pretty nice to see.
Who are the teachers? Mr. Scarpino?
Mr. Scarpino and Mr. Toomey are fabulous. They're fantastic. So here's the breakdown of the budget for our adult ed, driver's ed, and enrichments. And the fund balances have been steadily going up every year. It's in good shape. And we're continuing, and we're projecting it to be in great shape for next year as well. In conclusion, these are some of our goals for this year. The number one goal is to eliminate the wait list for the base program, the extended day. That's our number one goal. It may not happen in September, but we would love to be able to offer everyone on that wait list a spot by Christmas, which was when I first came here 6 years ago, I was able to do. I started in November and was able to clear the wait list in December. So that's our goal. And then we continue to expand our offerings. I'd love to increase, we're looking to increase our adult programming. We're looking to add Mahjong, yoga, Pilates, financial aid for college, some dance, some cooking. I'd love to work with the VOTEC in Wakefield for some like home repairs for adult classes, things like that. And then one of our long-term goals is a possible new office for the department. And one thing I didn't put there that I'm really pushing for is a youth center for our middle school, high school students. And I know that's a few years out, but that's something that I've been wanting to do for 6 years. So that kind of wraps up my little presentation, and be willing to answer any questions you may have.
Chris, one more question on the point I was making earlier, where I was going earlier. For families who have students enrolled in extended day in the afternoons in particular for this upcoming school year, have they already started receiving communications about the fee-based enrollment in these enrichment programs?
So we have it planned out. We haven't started to share that yet. I wanted to come and share with the school committee first, and tomorrow we'll be start sending it out. Monday, we have our opening welcome night where the site coordinators and the staff will meet the families at each school, and we'll start spreading the word there as well. So our PR push begins tomorrow morning.
Not a criticism, because you're doing the responsible, sort of fiscally necessary thing. I do worry, it's going to feel like a takeaway. I don't know that families will have internalized it. We intended it as a pilot. So I do worry that it's going to feel like a takeaway for families who've had kids in extended day over the last couple of years. Like I said, I don't really have anything to offer. It's a better solution. So it's certainly not a criticism. I think it's just something for us to be aware of and prepared for.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I agree with you. This kind of goes back to an old model of when we offered Jeep or Apple or ASF. So it's kind of like a return to the old school of the programming, with this piece added in with a little bit more of the offerings. So.
Yeah. I suppose the alternative would be we include it for extended day students and then raise the overall, raise the baseline price to offset the additional costs. So this is a little bit of giving families choice. If they prefer those enrichment programs, they have that option, but, keeping extended day affordable, generally speaking.
I think that's key. What Sean is saying right there is managing the message.
Correct, yes.
Managing the message in terms of that, and hopefully over the last couple of years, we have been saying these are pilot programs, so they've been hearing that to some degree, but now you're managing the message that there's some optionality here. Johnny, Joey, Sally likes X and Y, they didn't like A and B, now they can do more of X and less of A and B, whatever the case might be.
Correct.
And think through that, so that's going to be really important as the team rolls that out, Chris. Sean, can I keep going with another question real quick?
Please.
I noticed that Lego League is explicitly excluded from BASE as its own thing. Why is it not part of the E of BASE, at least at the elementary level?
It's because we kind of look at that as it has a middle school branch to it, and so the BASE is more elementary. So it could actually technically be in both. We just kind of moved it moved it out into that one because it's a little bit different than some of these other programs. We're looking for parent, coach, volunteers, and it's like a longer program. It's longer duration, goes from, should begin in mid to late September and go all the way through March, where these other programs are 6-8 week windows, and then they'll take a little break and then start again. So it's a little different.
And have we looked at more enrichment that would be academic in nature, besides the foreign language stuff? Have we talked about anything else that we could do there to continue to bolt on or extend the school day academically as well?
So we look at bringing in a lot of different things centered around academics. We're looking to bring in coding. I keep looking for instructors for like a Russian math, some things that are kind of outside of, yeah, well, they're outside of like the, the math curriculum that may be taught, but it's more of an education thing. A lot of the STEM, a lot of the engineering types of programs we like to bring in, some science. There's a number of different things that we want to bring in. Again, space-wise, because we get, we're in the CAF, we're in the gyms, we're in the libraries, the art rooms, the music rooms, and we're getting pretty big, and I don't want to get into classrooms. Being married to a teacher, I totally understand that, and that's something that I totally respect and I get, and so but what we can alternate. We can do a season of chess and then switch and bring in, math, or bring in the STEMs for the different seasons. And another reason why I stick to strictly kind of academic in nature is there is more of a gentleman's agreement with the recreation department. I don't want to step on their toes. I don't want to offer programs that they offer. I want to be respectful to them. We're both town departments. So I do kind of stay on the side of academics.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Chris. We'll let you get out of here just a couple hours late.
Yeah, just in time for my bedtime. Thank you.
I just want to close too thanking Chris for his leadership. I think his job is one of the unsung jobs behind the scenes, yet as you see the list of the amount of students that he's impacting, close to 1,000 students is truly incredible, yet often has received the thanks for the work, just the amount that's thrown on his plate, both in planning and also sort of in reaction, fire putting out mode too. So I think just appreciate Chris also his visionary leadership through the last couple of years of coming up with creative offerings for kids. With this wait list of 113, you can tell that there was some success the last couple of years. More students are wanting to be involved, which is really exciting too. So I just know a lot of people, I know you're behind the scenes in a lot of things, but just thank you for all your work you do, and I hope people recognize that. Yeah, Chris is really doing an amazing job leading the program, and it's not an easy gig. So thank you for everything you do, and excited about the year ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Dr. Lopez, anybody else we want to
You want to do Ramsey? Ramsey's in for the long haul.
And we have Sarah online too. For he said, I think all those the next three are very quick.
we can keep plugging in. So let's go to the rental policy agreement. You want to see us up there?
Great. So you'll find that in your packet. I'm just going to go quick on the next few, and if you want more detail, you can. This was driven by some input from our community, mostly rental groups, that the dates to request space and then receive approval for those dates was later in the season than they would hope, and sort of put them behind the 8 ball, and then being able to schedule events, games. For example, a lot of our winter basketball leagues already had the rest of the league scheduled, and by the time we got our dates out there, we were sort of already scrambling too. So there's no negative impact on our athletic programming at the high school. So it's a win-win sort of all around, and that's the most significant change in the policy outside of gender neutral language, is just around sort of those rental dates and times as well. And I should say thanks to Tom Zay, Kevin Gerstner, and I sort of all worked through this collaboratively as well.
Carla, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the updated rental policy agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Tom, you look contemplative. Okay.
Nope,
No.
nope, it's all good.
All right, let's move to the vote. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And it's a yes from me as well. Okay, we're going to Dr. Harding next. On the acceptable
Great.
use policy.
Acceptable use policy, you'll see is a very small update to the policy, just as integration of AI, language around AI, and that language is given directly to us from legal counsel. Sarah Hardy's been working collaboratively with Julian and with others on this behind the scenes as well as here, if you have any questions. Otherwise, that's just a kind of a quick high-level overview.
Thanks for being part of the sort of technology working group. I would say that this is to get in front of anticipated issues. This is not sort of the conclusion of our work around how we integrate AI and education around AI into our districts. But this is, I think, appropriately puts us in a place where we're not on our back foot should we have any issues, particularly around academic integrity.
I would strongly recommend that the acceptable use policy that the student signed, so what's on page 160 of the packet, also include an AI statement in conjunction with that new language. I noticed that there was no update to what the students are signing, and I know from experience that they are very happy to exploit loopholes, and so I think it would probably be a good idea to put a statement in there that reiterates that students agree not to use any AI tools unless they've been instructed by the staff that it is an approved tool. But I think the language itself is good.
I second that recommendation.
Yep, it's good feedback.
Great catch.
I've dealt with a lot of syllabus loopholes in my time.
Okay. Any further discussion on this one? All right, let's move to, we take a motion? We need a motion.
Move to approve the updated acceptable use policy.
Is there a second?
Second, with a friendly amendment,
Go for it, Tom.
as amended by recommendation by Laura.
So just so we're clear on what that recommendation is, so
It's not the policy. Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Acceptable use policy for students includes an AI statement. The ask is that the signature page explicitly call out sort of a shortened version of that AI acceptable use.
That's my recommendation, yeah.
Yes, I will not use, something like I will not use AI
Unless it's been explicitly approved.
Yeah, or something like that.
Okay.
Sarah's nodding in agreement. I think she knows what our intent is, so.
Yep. Okay. I'm good with that as a friendly amendment. Any further discussion? Okay, we're going to vote. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Sean? Yes. Okay, and then that takes us to, where does that take us to? Beginning of school year update, Dr. Milchesky, I think you covered most of this during your report. Any additional comments here on that update?
No.
Okay, let's go to Ramsey on the introduction.
Welcome, Ramsey. So I think the committee has all met Ramsey. I'll just take 30 seconds to introduce Ramsey in case anyone is watching here at home. We're thrilled to welcome Ramsey Merritt to our central office leadership team. Ramsey is in the last year of his 3-year doctoral program at Harvard and was spending his residency, which is a full-time residency, with us on our central office leadership team. Also, a huge thank you to Harvard for funding Ramsey's residency as well. And that's the second year in a row that's a funded residency through Harvard. Ramsey will be taking on a variety of projects as an extension of our central office leadership team in a variety of areas, with the bulk of his work being around teacher, pipelines of leadership development and continued leadership development support coaching for our existing leaders and leadership team. So therefore, his title, while it's behind the scenes a sort of doctoral resident, is going to be Director of Leadership Development for our district as well. I think for those who have met met Ramsey know that you can look at find his qualifications and resume in the packet. Extremely skilled, impressive background around teaching and learning. I just think we're really lucky to have your talent and leadership with us for the year too. So want to give you the chance. I know it's 10 p.m., so maybe a very brief word of welcome, and then give the committee any chance to share anything that you'd like or any questions that you have for Ramsey.
I had to resist so many jokes there.
Come on.
In the interest of time. No, it's a pleasure to be here. Working with Tom and Sarah and Jen is just a pleasure as well. I know all of the principals really, really well, and so those relationships are already existing, and I'm happy to just continue that work with them. And then, like Dr. Milashevsky said, we are really looking to develop pipelines for leadership and take advantage of where we have real strengths, especially in our elementary schools where we don't have a lot of opportunities for teacher leadership. There are some ways that we can do that. And I'm also going to be starting a voluntary cohort of assistant principals and SPED team chairs who are looking to one day be principals, so giving them something explicit. But I'm happy to be here. That's it.
We're happy to have you.
I'm excited about that, but I was surprised. What about our math? What's up, man? You're a math guy.
I will say that I do still talk to Dr. Hardy and Mary Ann Lynn quite a bit about math. It's not fallen off, but it's not an official part of my strategic project.
Let me build on that for Tom's point too. So if you may know, Ramsey was very involved 2 years ago in his first year of sort of the work that happened at Parker around revamping math instruction. I think he's very well respected and appreciated in the Parker community too. Ramsey has to choose a project that's the focus of his mini dissertation, or called a capstone, and that will likely be around leader development. That does not mean he won't be involved in a variety of other projects of our team. He actually just wrote a book around math instruction as well that was just recently published.
I did.
So to think that we will...
How many copies do we need for the district?
So thinking we will not be leveraging that skill set, I think, would be a miss on our part. But
I feel sure I'll be pulled in many directions, and I'm happy to be pulled. So wherever I'm needed, I'll go.
Leadership development is definitely one that we've been talking about for a while. And we've made some progress, but we need to continue to make more. So glad to have you focus on that.
And with an eye of where it will be left off and who will pick up the reins on some of these things. So it's not going to be a 1 year and done thing. Every single project that I'm working on, there's a little column on the spreadsheet of who takes this on. Now, whether they do, no, I'm just kidding. We have a plan. We have a plan to keep it going.
Yeah, for anyone who might still be watching at home, we had the pleasure of having Ramsey facilitate our retreat a couple weeks back, and your skills as a facilitator are outstanding, but it's easy to see how they translate to this work that you're going to be doing in the district as well. So, despite your unfortunate choice of undergraduate institution, we are thrilled to have you here.
Vice Chair, can we strike that from the record, please?
I'm going to actually make sure that's in the minutes now. We're thrilled to have you, and very, very lucky to have you.
And if any of you ever want to reach out directly to me, you're more than welcome to, as long as that's okay.
Well, Duke and UNC, yeah, okay. Go Tar Heels?
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, go Tar Heels.
All right, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sticking around.
All right, Dr. Milashevsky, I think we are going to an intro to your goals next.
Yep. So to tee it up for the committee too, tonight is just kind of an introduction of draft goals. I think we can have more robust conversation in the next school committee meeting after your feedback, and maybe when it's a little bit earlier too. Just want to flag a couple of things for you in the draft goals. Consolidated down to 3 goals. I think one is a very similar goal around student outcome data. You would see in the last goals around hitting 80% of DESE determined MCAS achievement and growth targets at both the school and district level. This time we've also added in those same goals around our high needs groups, our MLL group, students with disabilities, and students of color. So I know we've talked a lot about ensuring the success of all students. The goal I thought over the last 2 years, to not explicitly name those groups. So I think it's really important that our growth and achievement targets are also reflective of those demographic groups as well. You'll also see an addition of AP data in there, so increasing annual AP exams taken, 3+ scores, 4+ scores, and then also continued expansion, innovation, pathway enrollment, That's all around goal 1. Goal 2, I feel that was the goal that as we looked at the summative evaluation from the last 2 years, that was an area that we did not hit where we wanted to be, a lot of work to be done in there, and I think we're on an exciting path with the introduction of EduClimber. So I think it's important that we maintain that goal as written with a small dates of tweaks on dates, because I think that's sort of what's going to drive a lot of our work ahead. Goal 3, I know we focused on principal leadership development the last 4 or 5 years. Again, with the addition of Ramsey, I think that we've all talked many a times about sort of the way we move the needle in district is through investing in our principals. With the addition of EduClimber, I think it's really important that our central office and I continue to focus our work on principal leadership development, because that's ultimately what's the biggest lever that we have to be able to improve student outcomes. So before the next committee meeting, whether you have feedback tonight on the floor that you want to share, I'm open to feedback. Whether you have feedback sort of one-on-one or after, I'm happy to incorporate any feedback and bring some updated draft goals for the next school committee meeting as well. Other thing I should have flagged in goal 1, also, I am trying to focus on outcome data. Also recognize that MCAS sort of shouldn't and isn't the only metric of success, but I'm trying to focus on measures that are objective. I'd rather not have measures that are subjective in there, because I think that's just tougher for us to sort of center around too. So with that, I'll open up to any questions or feedback, and knowing we have another meeting in a couple of weeks.
Go ahead, Tom.
The Pathways goal, 230 students.
Yep.
I thought we had a 50 student cap. Did we raise the cap? Have we increased our capacity? And if we have a 50 student cap, 230 is not possible.
50 student cap per
grade.
Yeah, per grade.
So there's 4 grades, that's 200, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so what our hope is for us to be able to continue to expand what is sort of pathway programs.
Per grade, per path. So
correct, yes, correct.
So now with more pathways, we think
correct,
higher cap.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, thank you. I'm going to want to talk about too when we during our one-on-one, and then we can figure out how that ties back in at some point as well.
Great.
All right, any other initial feedback? We will take this up again and formally approve the goals likely in our next meeting.
And Sean, I'll make sure to reach out to committee members to gather feedback too over the next couple of weeks, but I just wanted to make sure to get the conversation started.
Yep. Okay, so no vote on that one. So next we'll go to the superintendent review timeline. There really are 2 decisions we need to make around the superintendent review. One is the timeline, which we'll do tonight, and then the second is around sort of how we're going to think about focus indicators, which we've moved around on a bit over the last few years. I just want to settle on the timeline tonight, and we'll come back and have a discussion on focus indicators next time. The 2 options fundamentally are we do an annual review, so we would do a formative review in the winter, in the January, early February timeline, and then a final review in the May-June timeframe, or a 2-year review, which is what we did for Dr. Milczewski this last cycle, where we have a formative review at the end of this school year, so that, May-June timeframe, 2026, and then the summative review would follow in May or June of 2027. So we're free to, we can discuss the merits. I don't see any particular reason to go back to a 1-year timeline personally. So my proposal would be to stick with the 2, but that's obviously up for this committee to decide. So I'll open the floor if anybody sees it differently. Go ahead, Tom.
Nobody else is speaking up, so I'll speak up real quick. I was opposed to the 2-year when we did it 2 years ago, but after doing it, I like it. I'd like to keep it that way. I know you wanted to not do the focus indicators, but one of the reasons why I liked it is because we could cover a lot in that 2-year period. So we'll get to that when the time comes, but I think the 2-year worked really well.
So part of my thinking was separate those 2 discussions a little bit, because it gets muddied, when we try to do it all at once. Okay, so Carla, we need a motion including specifically a 2-year timeline with a summative in June of 2027.
Move to approve the superintendent review timeline. 2-year review cycle timeline with a formative review in May, June of 2026 and a summative review in May, June of 2027.
Second.
Seconded by Tom. Any additional discussion? Okay, let's go to a vote. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Sean, yes. Okay, thanks everyone. All right, so let's go then to the student handbook revision. Dr. Milchesko, kick it to you to get this one.
Great. This was purely driven by the recent Supreme Court case, Mahmood, and in response, legal counsel provided us with some language that should be updated in our handbook. So if you look into our student handbook, the only updated language says, consistent with Massachusetts regulations, the Reading Public Schools, through its curricula materials, it encourages respect for the human and civil rights of all individuals, regardless of race, color, sex, gender identity, religion, national origin, or sexual orientation. In accordance with the district guidelines, families may request information from the building principal on available accommodations related to curriculum content. So that's the only addition to the handbook. Sort of the guidance from legal counsel obviously was to develop a protocol sort of with families want to request information regarding curriculum content, which we have obviously developed internally. So happy to answer any questions on that, but again, it's a pretty straightforward update just given legal counsel's guidance.
Now let's start with the motion and we'll see if there's any discussion.
Move to approve the updated district-wide student handbook.
Second.
Second by Laura. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, we'll go to the vote. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Sean, yes. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go to executive session. Expect it to be relatively brief, and then we do anticipate coming back to open session. So, Carla, can you make a motion, please?
Sure. Move to enter into executive session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the superintendent, and we will be returning to open session in approximately 15 minutes.
Second.
Okay. Seconded by Tom. Roll call, Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Sean? Yes. If you all in the room need a couple minutes, feel free to take that, and we'll join on the Zoom link.
No, you're muted. Are you muted?
Sean can't.
Nope.
No, you're not muted. He should be able to hear you now. Okay, Sean, you should hear us now.
No, he was muted.
Oh, Sean's muted.
Sean's muted.
Here, we can host.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, there we go.
You'll have to make us co-host again, otherwise we have to be individually unmuted.
Why can't we?
Got it?
What are we trying to do? Make
Yeah, you know what, because we made him,
John, if you're host, you can make them co-hosts.
yeah, we got to make.
I made you host.
I got it.
Yeah, he's the host.
Yep. One second.
Yeah, we missed a few meetings.
All right, everybody's back in. All right, I'll call it back to order, 10:34. We need a roll call back to order, I think so. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sarah? Sarah?
It's muted, yep.
Sean, yes. All right, back to order, 10:34. All right, so in executive session, we just reached agreement with Dr. Milachewski on a new contract. This will be I believe it's called a successor contract, which replaces his existing one versus amending it. It'll take effect retroactively July 1st of this year and continue through June 30th of 2031. The primary, alterations from his current contract are his base salary effective the 25-26 school year will be $242,000. We're eliminating the annual retention payments that were part of his prior contract, which previously were $2,000 per year. We're eliminating those. We have structured two retention payments later in the contract. One which is payable on or after June 30th of 2029 for $30,000, subject to Dr. Milachewski receiving satisfactory or exemplary performance on all of his summative reviews during the course of his contract. And then an additional retention payment of $15,000 on June 30th of 2031, subject to those same performance expectations. We're also incrementing Dr. Milachewski's vacation time by 2 days and adding an additional personal day as well. Those are the primary modifications. There are some additional, minor ones around removing the new superintendent induction program and things like that that aren't terribly relevant anymore. But otherwise this contract will largely carry forward as it currently exists. So anything from the committee to add before we go to the vote? Before I go to the contract as well? Anything to add on the contract itself, I should say?
On the contract itself, no.
Okay. So I'll just say, this is now the second time we amended Dr. Milachewski's contract in the handful of years he's been here. I think it's to me, it's evidence of the fact that we really believe we have the absolute best superintendent for this district in our midst here. Dr. Milachewski, in addition to being sort of a phenomenal leader in the things that he leads independently, he leads himself, is really a force multiplier that gets so much, we want to get so much more out of this district and out of the other leaders, incredible leaders that he's brought in and added to the team along the way. Even we saw it tonight with Ramsey, even his relationships at Harvard that have brought us, really talented folks for free for a couple of years in a row, is a value add to our district that, you don't get with just anybody. You get it from somebody like Dr. Milachewski, who people want to come work with and work for, who has the reputation that he has, who's, done the kinds of things that he has in his career. And so we feel very fortunate to have him and want to keep him around for a very long time, which is what this contract is indicative of. So any other comments from the committee for Dr. Milachewski before we take it to a vote and go home and get some sleep?
Sean, say thank you, and it's really, I love working in this community. I love the community, love the students, love the staff, the families. It's a great place to work, and I'm really excited to be here for many years to come. So thank you for your continued support. Looking forward to all the collaboration ahead and continuing to do the right work for our students, so thank you.
Sean, I think you summed it up very well.
Thank you.
Except I would say the best superintendent in the state, not just for this district. I would take that qualification out.
You know, I don't know every other superintendent.
There's some good ones out there.
I wouldn't want to replace him with any of them, let's put it that way. So, you know, let's put it that way. All right, let's move to a vote by roll call. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Sean, yes.
Did we have a second?
Zero, thank you, everyone.
Did we have a second?
If we didn't have a second, I second. There was a question if we had a second on the motion, but
All right, let's do the vote again. This is an important one.
I second.
This is one of like the three things we're formally.
Exactly.
All right, seconded by Tom. Let's redo the vote. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes again.
Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Enthusiastic, yes.
Sean is still yes. Okay. Is there a final motion?
Motion.
To adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Carla. I'd still do a roll call. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yep.
Tom?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Sean, yes. Night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.